record.
What's up, everybody? From Walmart. We're back. We're back, baby, again.
Not a bad fish right there, guys.
Oh, no.
Out here catching Folsom bass right now, dude. Woo, he's a little chunker. What's life without a little controversy? What up, everybody? 'Tis I, Dave Erkey, the host of the Whole Angler Podcast, back with another episode. Yet again, happy Monday, or whatever day you're listening to this on. I really appreciate you tuning in. And I am, again, like I said, always super excited. But I am very excited about this episode, especially this guest. There's a lot of things going on these days, and we fail to look back. We fail to learn history. We fail to take a step back out of ourselves and out of our in the moment situations and see if this has ever been addressed before. See if the industry has ever been in this situation before. See if another angler or another person's ever been in this situation before. I personally have a whole thing of ultimate bass fishing libraries. I mean, I have the entire book set. Now, that's great. I could read all these wonderful articles and all these things about learning how to fish a spinnerbait, structure, things like that. Or I could delve down the rabbit hole just a little bit deeper and find somebody that has all that information and 10 times more. So tonight, without further ado, I bring to you Sir Ken Duke.
Hey, Dave, how are you, sir? It's an honor to be on the show.
Dude, I'm really excited you're here. Thank you, dude. Thank you for showing up, man. And I'm sorry for all the technical difficulties in the beginning, because
I share your pain. I'm in the same boat. I've got to record my podcast on the same platform. Luckily for Bass After Dark, which is a show I have, is I've got a much better, more talented friend named Nathan Benson who handles all the tech stuff.
The infamous Nathan Benson. I think everybody's seen his face maybe twice. I swore I screenshotted it just for a meme.
He's AI.
I love it, man. I love it. So, Ken, I have so many questions, but I would love to sit here and talk about the history of bass fishing and is it cannibalizing itself now, because I feel like the industry is slowly eating themselves alive because the old guard won't let go and the new guard doesn't have enough skin in the game or time in the game to step up, et cetera, because that's happened before. It's happened in an industry I came from, which is skateboarding. But the point is, we're not here to talk about that today. This is a focus on you. Like, this is basically, we get to talk to you about your life. Like, let's start with young Ken Duke. Where and when were you born?
I was born in 1962 in Orlando, Florida, not far from where I live today.
Really?
I'm a Floridian and a proud Floridian.
Cheers.
But I've lived almost half my life other places, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama. But in 2005, had a chance to come back to Central Florida, and they will have to drag me out. I love Florida.
Yep. Hey, every time that I visited Florida, my parents had to drag me out when I was a kid.
There you go.
Because they have.
Well, yeah, you're a kid. You're visiting Disney and Universal and Legoland or whatever, and yeah, there's an amazing appeal for that. The theme parks around here are what make Orlando one of the biggest tourist attractions in the world. But I love the weather.
The weather is phenomenal. I was talking more about like the landscape that you guys have. I would it's like it would be my uncles, my grandparents, brothers, kids. So I don't know what that makes them, uncles or whatever.
Yeah.
We would go to their house, and you guys have these green anoles, which are like these little lizards.
Oh yeah, geckos.
Oh, dude, they're so fun. I would like grab them and clip them to my ears, and like they're just because they'll bite and then hold. They'll bite and hold. Yeah. So, dude, you couldn't drag me out of there, dude. I've
not considered them seriously as personal accessories, but good play, Dave Erkey. Good play.
I mean, I was 7, dude.
My wife would be horrified if I tried to put one of those things on her ear. She would scream and then divorce me.
Oh, gee.
Not necessarily in that order, but yeah, it would not go well for me, Dave. But yeah, we got those little lizards everywhere. We had a cold winter here in Florida this year, and I'm going to be interested in seeing how many lizards and mosquitoes and things like that, mayflies,
Mm.
because yeah, we get a lot of that stuff, and wondering what the cold's going to do to them.
Oh yeah, yeah. So, like you said, you moved around. What was Florida
Yeah,
like growing up as a kid? Like, what were you doing?
yeah,
What was your daily routine, I should say?
Oh, when I was a kid, I was born in Orlando and lived here for like 3 or 4 years, and then moved. My dad worked for Southern Bell South, and so he would have to move around occasionally. So he was from Miami, and he got transferred back to Miami. So I kind of grew up in Miami, fishing the canals. Florida, is about that far above sea level,
Mhm.
and as a result, there's a ton of canals all over the state of Florida, keeping that water moving and out of homes.
Yeah.
And great fisheries, great places to see alligators. Great. So I grew up fishing those canals, and it was my daily routine was I would come home from school and I would grab a fishing rod, and a buddy and I would go fish canals and had a
Oh,
blast.
that's so awesome. So,
Yeah.
were you a good student in school? Were you very like about your studies, or was it just easy? Or
I would say it wasn't hard, but I mean, it was elementary school, you know, middle school, high school. It wasn't hard. So I was a pretty good student. Yeah.
yeah, okay. So
Um,
I was
not
never a good
because I,
student. Yeah.
well, not because I'm smarter than anybody else, but just I think because I saw, okay, if I apply myself just a little bit, I can get good grades, and that makes the rest of my life easier.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not
Yes.
being hassled by mom and dad. I'm not being denied the opportunity to go fishing or to play sports. I can kind of slide by, and things are smoother if I make good grades. So I made A's
Yes.
and B's.
Smart man. Smart. You are much smarter than I was. I was terrible at
I
school, and so
I
I
don't
just
think so.
chose not to do it. You know?
But that's see, yeah, but that's not necessarily being less smart. That's a decision you made. I made a different decision. I saw that I got less hassled if I did those things. If I, went through the at least the appearance of doing those things and getting good grades. So I was well behaved, and I made good grades, and I was looking for the path of least resistance maybe.
Yeah. So you were just fishing from the gate. There was no like, were you into like the bike riding and like the going out and doing all that kind of stuff, or was it just bike was a way to get to another body of water?
I rode a bike to go fishing, yeah, but I played sports. I was playing football, baseball, basketball, and fishing. And those are
Nice.
my things. And just playing in the yard, or later little league or middle school or high school, I played sports, but my main passion was fishing because I wasn't that good at sports. I could play, but I was not gonna make it. I was never gonna be the third baseman for the St. Louis Cardinals. So once I realized that, I said, "Hey, I'm gonna go fishing more."
Yeah. Yeah. Heck yeah, dude. So, growing up in a household, were you an only child, brothers, sisters, anything like that?
I've got a younger brother, but uh, you know, he's like almost 6 years younger, so we were not involved in the same activities at the same time. So
Got
we were
it.
not close like that.
You never drug him fishing or nothing? Never took him along with you?
Oh
Unless
yeah,
your
yeah,
mom
he'd
made you?
he'd go sometimes, but that wasn't his thing. That was never his interest. We're very different in
Oh,
that way, in what interests us, and he wasn't interested in that kind of stuff. He's more interested in treasure hunting, with a metal detector and things like that. And I always wanted to be, out there fishing.
yeah, dude. Hey, first off, those metal detectors are not cheap. I looked them up one time because my son was really into rocks and like finding treasure. And so I was like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe I'll just get him a metal detector. I'm like, nope, nope, he's getting a scooter. Like, there's this,
Well,
yep.
what I've learned from my brother, and what he finds, because used to be when he'd come down and visit and stuff, he'd go out metal detecting, is that if you do buy one of those expensive metal detectors, over 30 or 40 years, you can find enough coins and stuff to pay for it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's going to take about that long.
Yeah. Oh man. He comes back with just a bunch of bottle caps. You're like,
Bottle caps, pop tabs,
mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
occasional coin,
That's awesome.
random pieces of trash that you really can't identify because they're so degraded. Yeah,
Back when
I'll
chip
pass.
bags really had metal in them,
Yeah,
So
it's not
yeah,
not
I
for
get it.
me.
Yeah,
Not
no.
for me.
Yeah,
That
me neither.
there's a
I did.
romantic charm to the idea of finding something really valuable, but then the reality hits that somebody's already probably found it or it's just not there.
Yeah. They threw it down for a reason.
Exactly, exactly. And it's a lot tougher to find something valuable with a metal detector than it is to find a bass.
Oh,
So
yeah.
easy decision for me.
Yeah. 100%. So you were strictly a bass guy? Is that how you just caught one and fell in love with bass? Or was it you're just kind of anything that would bite the line as a kid?
Well, I think initially it was probably anything that would bite, but very quickly it became bass because bass was the biggest thing we had. And also I was in South Florida. I was in Miami, and there's not a lot of not a lot else to choose from.
Yeah.
Um, I couldn't get we were too far from like the beach, so I never got into the saltwater stuff. And in the canals, it's pretty much at least when I was down there, as far as I could find, it was pretty much bluegill and bass. And the bluegill were not that interesting
Hmm.
somehow. I could catch them on bread,
Yeah.
but then I'd have to fight the ducks
Yeah.
uh, to hang on to the bread. Or or I could throw like night crawlers and stuff and catch bass. And later that became very soon that before I was 10, that became plastic worms and topwater baits and stuff like that. And um, yeah, and I've always been into reading, and so I found these magazines on the newsstand like Field and Stream, Outdoor Life, Sports Afield, which were the big three, um, and they always had a bass article in them. And I can remember being fascinated by other fish that I didn't have access to, like muskie. But there was always a bass article because bass is the king of the American freshwater sport fishing world. And
Hmm.
so it was really easy for me to zero in on that. And back then, Dave, back in the day, because I'm almost 100 years old now, back in the day, um, you could, if somebody said to you, I read everything there is on bass fishing, they could be telling you the truth. Because if
Makes
you're reading those three magazines, and then later, in '68, Bassmaster magazine comes along.
yeah.
If you were reading those magazines, and in the mid '70s, you get the Georgia Sportsman and the Sportsman and Game and Fish magazines come into play. And if you were reading all those, which didn't take very long, you were reading everything there was to read about bass fishing.
They didn't have any I guess
There were
the access to
books.
information was just books and magazines, which I can remember those times. I'm old enough to remember the age of the internet. I'm
There,
younger than you, but I'm old enough to remember the
yeah.
age of the internet. And we used to have, the Encyclopedia Britannica on the wall. You know what I'm saying? We had that. That's how you found your information or words in the dictionary. Ooh,
Yeah.
real quick side quest on this. You quote the Oxford Dictionary versus Webster's, which I respect and appreciate so much. Like Webster's uses words like ain't. Like there's a description for the word ain't in Webster's. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you'll see like the little home version of the Oxford English Dictionary behind me, which I occasionally refer to, but you can also go to oed.com or whatever.
Mhm.
And the Oxford English Dictionary is the greatest English language work of all time. It is the history of our language. And you can find out where words came from, which is something you can't really do with like Webster's or something like that. They're not going to have the definitive, authoritative origin of things. And so, yeah, I like to quote the OED
Yeah, I
where
know.
I can.
I love it and respect it. I'm sorry. We can get back to the
Thank you.
it's one of those things where you say it and I'm like, thank you. Like I am not a learned man, but my mom taught me early on when somebody asks you how you're doing, it's not good, it's well, because you can't do good unless you are helping someone. And
Ah,
on
very
top of
nice.
that, if you are going to read a dictionary, it's going to be the Oxford English Dictionary over the Webster's Dictionary.
Yeah, nothing, not to slight Webster's because it's a great resource as well. But if I can go to, I always want to go to the best source.
Yeah.
Um, when we were about to get started here, you were talking about how your show is kind of a soup to nuts kind of thing. It's you're going to pick up with your guests as though you're just meeting,
Mhm.
and and I love that. And you said you're not a research guy. Well, who needs to be a research guy? You're a guy who's going to take people through the full experience, and I really admire that. I'm kind of a research guy. I like to know how stuff started and where it came from and all that. I'm a maniac that way. If I get into something, I get really, really into it.
All or nothing, 100% or 0%.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, honestly, the older I get, the more I realize I can't do all the things. I'm not going to be able to do all the things I want to in my life.
Mhm.
That's just an ugly realization.
It,
And yeah, so that's where I'm
have
at.
you accomplished a majority of what you would like to?
No, no, no. I you know, I've I've enjoyed what I've done in my career in the fishing industry. Before that, I was a divorce lawyer. I was a divorce lawyer for 10 years.
Oh, we're
And
gonna get into that. I'm
three,
it's
3 years of law school, 10 years of practicing, and I didn't like it. I didn't like any of it, and I didn't have the guts to get out of it sooner. But then I decided to try to turn my passion and hobby into a career, and I've mostly enjoyed it. I've met a lot of wonderful people through it, and I've met a lot of jackasses. But
hi, I'm one of them. But
yeah, certainly not.
so okay, I hate to jump back into this. So there's
Sorry, yeah,
4
I'm all over the
magazines
place.
out. And it's all good. I'm ADD with squirrels and the butterfly. I don't know what they say. Anyway, so cheers to the coffee, by the way,
Ah, yes,
gentlemen. For those
I
who
got it
are
in my.
listening to this in the morning, cheers, coffee.
Yeah, we're recording on. I can't believe Dave's up this early, quite frankly.
It's okay. I'm totally fine. Okay. So there was 4 in the 70s. It was number 4 magazine hit, right? The 4th magazine. So you could say, like
Yeah,
you were saying earlier, you could read everything there is to know about bass fishing at that point. Is that
yeah.
what kind of got you started on the historical research of it? Or was it just you wanted to read it all?
I wanted to read it all because yeah, there were the big three magazines. There was Bassmaster. Some others came along. BASS back in the 70s had a fair amount of competition from the Bass Casters Association or the National Bass Association or whatever, and they all had their own magazines. And so naturally, I'm subscribing to those as well. And then I realized, oh my God, there are books on bass fishing. And so I had to have as many of those as I could accumulate. And I still am accumulating those. I think I probably got the biggest private library of bass fishing books there is. I'm talking 1,000 books that are on bass fishing and related topics.
Oh
And
wow.
if I could turn my screen around, I'd show you some of it. But that part of the office is even more messy than this part of the office, which is hard to believe. So yeah, it was a desire to learn more, a desire to have a better understanding, uh, a desire to try to, and this is why I don't envy the internet generation, the folks who are trying to learn bass fishing just through the internet. Because, yeah, there's a lot more information out there about bass fishing than ever before, but my God, most of it's trash.
Mm.
And I hate that for people. Back in the day, the the plus and the minus was the same thing. There were a lot of gatekeepers. Um, Bassmaster was a gatekeeper. The big three magazines were gatekeepers. The Game and Fish magazines were gatekeepers. To get in there, you had to basically go through this gauntlet of presenting a manuscript and trying to get it through the editor and get it published and so forth. Now, anyone with an internet connection and a keyboard can get their stuff published and out there. And And the great thing is it's a very democratic thing, and it's a very egalitarian thing. But by the same token, when you have no barriers to entry or so few barriers to entry, there's so much garbage.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, mm. It's keyboard warrior on a different level because everybody's allowed to put their opinion and their experience on the internet and be like, this is fact. Factually,
Yeah,
it happened to you. Yes. Does that mean that that's like that everywhere else? No. You know?
exactly. And then there and that's among the people who are kind of innocent and who want to do good but maybe are just not good at it. Uh, by far the bigger problem are the people who have no real good intention. They're just out there to shout at the world and to
Mm.
call people down, and they think they elevate themselves by trying to knock the pedestal out from under others. And those are the people who I want to strangle or push down a, I never wanted to push anybody down a flight of stairs. I always want to push them down an escalator because then
Ooh.
they could bounce
Yes.
infinitely if the escalator is going up. And the
At
escalator
the
edges of the steps are much sharper. Having
yes. Yes.
having once fallen down an escalator.
You fell down an escalator?
Oh yeah, no big deal.
No, 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 big deal. The how did you fall down
No,
an escalator?
I fell down an escalator in the Dallas airport once about 20 years ago. I was coming off neck surgery of all things, and my balance wasn't great, and I had two bags with me, and yeah,
That's I'm sorry, I'm so silent. Like neck
no way.
surgery, the most like important part of your body, basically. You know, where your cerebral
Well,
cortex
brain
like
surgery, come on.
well, okay. The brain
I-
is the control, the cerebral cortex is the conduit which delivers control, right?
there you go.
So cerebral cortex being attached to your neck, that is the most needed protected place on the body. And you
I always
fell
joke
down the
that
most dangerous thing.
I
Oh,
always joke that the brain is the most important part of the body, according to the brain.
of course, yes, yes. If the cerebral cortex had a voice, I guarantee it would definitely say different for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I see for you it would be the mustache might be the most important part. For me, it would be my ugly giant bald head.
Hey, the mustache I grew for funny or money, and one day my wife was like, "Keep it," and
That's a look, man. It's a good look.
it's
If I could do it, I would.
Groucho
I
Marx in real life, bud. 2026 Groucho Marx.
Groucho was awesome. A comedy hero of mine. Of course, his was grease pencil.
Ah, yes, true.
Back in the
Yeah,
movie days, it was
it
grease
was
pencil.
just yes,
When he
yes.
was doing You Bet Your Life, that was real.
No.
But before it was just a grease pencil. Groucho, so oh my God, what a funny guy.
It's somebody made it a point. The only reason I say that is somebody made a point a while back. They sent me a picture of the Groucho Marx nose, glasses, mustache you can get. And they're all, here's your starter kit, buddy. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll own it. I'll take
Anyone
that.
who hasn't seen Duck Soup, 1933 Marx Brothers, if you haven't seen Duck Soup, I envy the fact that you have that to look forward to.
I'm actually gonna look it up because I've been trying to find new stuff to watch with my kids and like entertainment that's not CGI and super extremely overstimulating for their little brains. And so like I took them to all the old movies and like it's just there's something about movies back in the day that are not created to overstimulate your brain and sensories. So yeah, I'll look it up.
It's a great one. It's a
So,
great one.
okay, so you are fascinated with bass fishing. You're ate up by it.
Yeah.
You're reading everything you can get your hands on. So, where do you go from there? You said you were, a lawyer, so you had to do
Yeah.
some sort of college. Was it like,
Yeah.
I'm all right, mom and dad, thanks. I'm leaving for Maryland to go to college, or how did that come along?
Well, man, I can't. If anybody's sticking through my life story here, that's sad that you're having to do that. But thank you, Dave, for taking an interest. So when I was about 12, my dad decided that Miami, Florida was no place to raise his kids because it was a drug culture and a lot of that. This was in the early mid 70s.
Mhm.
So he got a transfer to South Carolina, and and my family got a farm. we lived on a farm and raised beef cows. And the farm had a creek that was the border of one side of the property. And there was a farm pond there where the cows would go down and drink. And I worked up the road at a dairy, milking cows as a kid. And but anyway, the farm pond was a decent bass fishery. And the creek had bass and all kinds of little panfish. So it wasn't far enough north to have trout or didn't have cold enough water for trout, but it had all kind of panfish. And I could go down to that little creek and in a couple hours I could catch 100 fish
Oh yeah.
on a beetle spin. Or I could go down to the pond and throw a plastic worm around and catch some really good fish. I caught a 12 pounder out of that pond. And I'm still reading this stuff I can get. And now at high school, I've got buddies who like to fish, and so we go fishing. And then somebody's got a car, get a driver's license, and then I'm saving every dime I make working at the dairy to buy a bass boat. And I'm still reading everything I can. And then about the time I'm going to graduate from high school, I start to think, I make pretty good grades on my written assignments in the English class, and I think I could write a magazine article. So I take a stab at it, and they buy it. A national magazine buys it, and I was shocked. And they kept buying them, and different magazines were buying my articles.
That's awesome.
And yeah, I mean, I had no idea. I honestly had no idea what I was doing, in the sense I didn't understand how the industry worked or the publishing world worked or anything like that. But I understood that if I could type 2,000 words about bass fishing and the grammar was decent, and back then, Dave, I'm talking about a typewriter.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh,
The little
Nobody had a,
ding.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, ding. Nobody had a computer then. This was in the late 70s, early 80s, and I was just blown away that I could sell this stuff and make money, and I didn't have to flip burgers or milk cows to make a little bit of money. And so I went to the University of Georgia, and then I went to the University of Georgia School of Law, and went and practiced law for 10 years, and did not get away from fishing. I was still fishing some, but not as much as I wanted to. And didn't feel as connected.
I feel like, well, yes, I can understand that. But I feel like there's a couple college courses or directions. I'm not a college guy, so I have no real sorry, I'm pouring more coffee. I have no real reference for this, but from what I've seen in people over the years, like there is doctor, like med school, and law school are specific schools. It's not like you just go to your general down the street college. So I can imagine it's extremely involved. Like, what was that experience for you? Was it just completely overwhelming, or was it just doing what I gotta do? Like,
Well, that's a tough question. I think I went to college thinking I might be a dentist, but then I hit my first biology course and realized, oh, I can't do this. I had a lousy high school science experience, a lousy high school science teacher, and I'm way behind. This is going to be a knockdown, drag out fight. But I can do something that's softer, looser, more BS.
mm-hmm.
And I can go and do the speech classes, and I can do political science, and I can do this. So I'm a better fit over here. I didn't know a lawyer. All I knew of lawyering was what was in a Clarence Darrow story.
Yeah.
But I went down that path, and I had nowhere else to go. If I had to do over again, I love it when people say, if I had to do over again, I wouldn't change a thing. I'd change everything. I would change everything. The only thing that makes me say I wouldn't want to change anything is whatever path I went on, I met my wife, who's the best human being I've ever met. I wouldn't want to do anything that would mess that up. But if I could do things over and still have my wife, I would do everything different.
That's awesome. Wait, so okay, perfect segue. You met your wife. You met your wife in law school?
No, I met my wife years later. I'm old.
Okay.
But we didn't get married until we were about almost 50.
Okay. Okay.
And she had never been married. I had never been married. When you're a divorce lawyer, man, everything's a red flag. Oh,
Oh yeah.
she drinks water. I've seen that problem before, you know. But
She breathes.
she breathes. She's a carbon-based life form. Oh, I've seen this game. But
Oh yeah.
no, I met my wife many years later, and I would never have met my wife except that I was working for BASS in Celebration, Florida. I would not have met her except for that. But
Okay.
anyway,
So you're in
uh,
college,
so I'm in
getting through it,
college, and
lawyer.
I'm trying to choose a path here, and I can't do the science. I realize science is going to be a real hurdle for me, so I get into what I would call the soft sciences, which is political science. And I decide that I really enjoy literature, so I'm going to get it. I got a double major in political science and English literature, and enjoyed the experience, you know. And then law school. Law school was a lot like high school, but with much, 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 much tougher classes
Mm,
because
yes.
you're in the same classes all day long with exactly the same people, and you're all taking exactly the same courses basically, and you develop your own little cliques and culture, and you're going to form a softball team, and you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And it's very much like high school, except the classes are designed to kill you.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Like it's not an easy course of life. First off, both emotionally and mentally, but like I can imagine they need to be able to weed out the weak as early as possible. So every class is designed for homicide. You know.
Well, some classes are designed for homicide. That's true, and I don't know how much they're designed to weed out. I think they're trying very hard to uh, to train people to be better critical thinkers, and and I value that experience for that because I think it probably made me a better critical thinker. And one of the things that drives me crazy generally when I deal with people is so many of them are poor critical thinkers,
Yeah.
and that's a pet peeve of mine. My pet peeves are poor critical thinkers and people who are proud of their ignorance.
Mm. Yep, that's the way I
Drives me
am.
crazy.
Yep, it's the way I am.
It's when people say, you know, oh, I don't know who had the world record bass, and they're like they're proud of that. Why would you be proud of not knowing something? I mean, I'm not proud. I'm not proud that I don't know who had the number one rap hit last year, even though I have zero interest in it. I'm not proud that I don't know.
Hmm.
What's that to
So-
be proud of?
Okay. I
I
I
wish I
li-
knew
I like
everything.
I like that. I like it and I respect it because I I never put it into that point of view. It's not that I've never been proud of the stuff that I don't know. I've always just been like, if I don't know it, I just don't know it. It's not a
Yeah,
thing.
and,
But
and
I
yeah,
get
you're a person. You have a lot of personal grace. You have a great deal of personal grace and a terrific way of carrying yourself. And that's what some of what I admire about you. Not nearly all, but some of what I admire about you. And I can't imagine that you would ever be proud of your ignorance, but so many people are.
so crazy. I never even thought of it that way. I guess yeah, it does. It is irking. Pardon my last name.
Irking.
It is irking in a way. Oh, I can't tell you how many times I hear irk. But it is irking in a way to think about that because there is certain things about when I'm talking to someone like I'm talking about fishing. I love fishing. I love my kayak. Kayaks. I was gonna get a boat and then I got a daughter, so I got kayaks. Because kids they're
I hear you.
way better. No offense, they're just way better. I would love a boat. Don't get me wrong, I would love a boat, but the boat doesn't give me the experiences that I get with my daughter. So,
No
it's
doubt.
just it is what it is. So I got kayaks, and I love getting out there and kayak fishing, and I love fishing. And I talk about it in infinitum with people who do not fish and they do not care. And it irks me when they're not as passionate about something as I am, but when I'm like, "Have you ever gone fishing or anything?" I mean, I'm not really into that kind of thing. You just throw a worm and they'll eat whatever.
Yeah,
No,
that's disrespect, is
I
what
mean,
that is.
well, what I'm saying is that can happen, yeah, but there's so many other things. Like you could do so many other things. Oh, I'm too hyper. I'm hyper, bro. I know how to fish. It is fun. Like it will hyper focus you. No, I'm just, I don't see it as all I know of fishing is, they just eat whatever you throw out there. And if you're throwing it back, there's no point in catching it in the first place.
I don't have the
Okay.
patience. Well, since when did bass fishing really involve a lot of patience?
Right.
It doesn't. It just
I'm just
doesn't.
saying the information, their lack of information and their lack of experience, and they're proud on that. They're like, yeah, you just throw it out there and they eat it, but I don't see the point in throwing them, catching them if you're just going to throw them back. I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. What? I mean, we can talk about politics. Let's go there then, I guess, because I don't know what else
Yeah,
to talk about at this
I
point.
well, I lose interest in people like that almost immediately.
Yeah,
I love being around people who are passionate about something, and to a degree, it doesn't matter too much to me what they're passionate about, because if they're really passionate, they can get me into the moment and talking about it. My wife wanted to go to a Barbie convention a few years ago. Believe it or not, there's an annual Barbie convention, a Mattel Barbie convention every year somewhere in the US.
yes.
And we went to one, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago in Jacksonville, Florida.
Mm.
And I have no interest in Barbie, but my God, that was a fascinating place. Those people are so passionate about it. They're dressing up like Barbie and dressing up like Ken. That was really scary. Not this Ken, different
Yeah.
Ken.
Yeah.
And man, they are beady-eyed and serious about it, and it was fun to be around those people. Um, my wife decided she didn't want to go to another one, at least not anytime soon. But I was fascinated to be around those people who were so passionate about something.
Yeah, dude. Like, okay, yes. I mean, we can go down this path. I love this path. Uh, Passion is the thing that drives the soul,
I
experience
believe
is
it.
the thing that drives the brain. So when it comes to something that you're fully involved in, that's a passion. You're emotionally invested, you're mentally, physically invested into this. That is a passion. So it's not even sales or promotion at that point. It is literally attraction. Like when somebody is passionate about something, that's attractive, and not in like oh, dude, he's hot, like not that kind of way, but like it's attractive to see someone's soul light up. You can see their eyes glow. Like it's just like one of those things that you're like, I don't really care about what you have to talk about. But right now, like I'm so into what you're talking about. Like, am I gonna go home and look up, how much it costs to get an old school Mattel Barbie? No. But what you are talking
It's a
about right
lot.
now has got me fired up. Like I'm into this. Like,
Yeah,
but I'm also a big people person. Like I love people. So
that shows. Yeah, that really shows. I enjoy meeting people, but I can get derailed reasonably quickly if I feel like they are disrespectful, they are disingenuous, they are going through the motions, they don't have a passion that we can find a way to engage, um, or they're stupid. That gets me too. I mean, if I think they're stupid, my God, if I think somebody's stupid, how dumb do they have to be?
hey, yeah, like you said, the state of California is beautiful. The people are
I didn't
it
say that.
no, I said that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said that part. The state of California is beautiful. A lot of the people here, hmm it's very difficult to get through the day. But I
Well,
also deal
you're
with people on a different basis. Like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain.
yeah, you're out there. You live there. I've visited there a few times,
Yes.
and yeah, I see the difference. I know a lot of guys from California in the bass fishing world, especially pro anglers, from the late great Aaron Martins and Skeet Reese and guys like who have left California, the Justin Lucases and James Niggemeyers and Gary Kleins and Gary Dobbins and Bobby Barrick and they're wonderful. Love those guys. Um, what I found really interesting when I visited California, especially in the early 2000s, was just how toxic that world is in the world of like record bass chasing. If you caught a giant bass, oh, he caught on a trout. Oh, he was in there. He was out there at night. Or oh, he snuck in.
Yeah.
You can't let anybody have a 19 pounder. You got to accuse them of murder.
Yes, exactly.
And I
Yes.
thought that was awful. Mike Gilbert, another great California guy. Ah,
He comes from skateboarding. You know that, right?
yeah, I know that. Yeah,
Oh my
Mike
gosh.
is Mike is next level smart and passionate, and what a wonderful guy.
Yes. His
Big
work
Mike
in
Gilbert fan too.
his work in skateboarding, just for your records, if you care, his work in skateboarding is documented as one of the best ways for one of the best cinematographer styles. Like when it comes
Really?
to filming skateboarding, like it's it was kind of directed down by the owner of the company, but it's called a shotgun style edit, and it is still the most impactful way to edit a skateboard video to this day. It's his work is amazing, and the way he designed their whole layout for their websites and everything like that, like the mind of Mike Gilbert is so incredibly awesome. Like I would love to talk to that guy because he is just cheers to him.
I
Sorry.
bet I bet I know he'd be a wonderful guest on your show, and I bet he'd do it.
Well,
Um,
there's emails out there, but apparently my emails don't land. So
well, you mentioned that you emailed me a couple of years ago, and I never saw that one. I
yeah, it's all
I don't
good.
know what might have happened there, but yeah, Mike's a wonderful guy
Yeah,
and
yeah.
next level thinker. He's such an innovator.
But then
Anyway,
there's all the quiet talk in the background, like you were talking about in California. Like recently, Damien Tao, he got a nice, it was like 18 pounder, and he didn't have like official scales, so he took it to the unofficial scale, weighed it, and then now the state's like, you removed it out of the water, so we don't know. And then, of course, by doing that, and he fully admitted it, like it was the most respectful, like media presence that he's ever given out. Like, well, he's very respectful, but like I did this. It might not actually count because I moved but like he put it all out there for everybody. So there was no naysayers because all there is naysayers. When you start getting into the
yeah.
big fish, everybody like, yeah, he threw a crankbait, but it was attached to a bluegill that swam it down there or whatever. It's just
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, there's a remarkable number of gigantic bass from the 1970s that were caught on balls of cheese and a 2/0 or 3/0 hook because guys would catch the trout on cheese and then they just let the trout swim around down there for a while. Or maybe they reel the trout all the way in, but then they didn't realize the trout was there. They didn't realize the 11 or 12-inch trout was there. They just thought the cheese was there, so they'd throw it out again. And lo and behold, 17-pound bass.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Dude. So okay, so I'm sorry. I'm rabbit hole number, I don't know
I'm
yet.
all over the place, man. I'm sorry. I'm not helping.
No, no, it's all good. Like it's so interesting. I love the way this conversation is just going. Law school.
Yeah.
So we're out of law school. You've graduated. You are officially a lawyer. Now you're a lawyer in the state of
Well,
Georgia?
you pass the bar, you become a lawyer, you go to work for a law firm or whatever, and you do that for a while and you realize, wow, this is tedious and annoying and horrible in a lot of ways. And you're dealing with people in some of their ugliest circumstances, especially if you're a divorce lawyer,
Yes.
because you're dealing with people and the most important relationship in their life is falling apart. And it's hard to have a good day if you're a lawyer doing that, because even if you win your case, and winning your case is a very gray, loose, nebulous thing,
Mhm.
because if you get the car and the kids in the house, a lot of clients will say, well, you didn't get the mop and the broom, so
Yeah.
screw that. So I said, it was all I could do to drag myself into the office anymore. So I said, I still have some relationships with some magazines. Maybe I can cobble together something in the fishing industry. Maybe I can guide. Maybe I can learn taxidermy. Maybe I can pour plastic worms, because this is back in the day where hand pours were really getting taken off. Maybe I can write and photograph, and maybe I can cobble all that together and turn that into a career in the bass fishing world. And I got a little bit luckier than that because one of the magazine companies I had sold a lot of articles to through the years was actually looking for an editor about that time. And that was the Game and Fish magazines. At the time, they were located in Marietta, Georgia. And so I went to work for them.
I just want to touch on one thing real quick because you said something earlier, and then you talked about how there's never a win. There's not a
Oh,
considerable
yeah,
win.
right.
Do you feel that that had an effect on your relationships, not just with women, just with people in general? Just because I feel like seeing people at their worst so consistently would just give you such an analytical point. You would be almost like breaking everybody down as you meet them on a regular basis. Like you said earlier, critical thinking, which I encourage critical thinking fully, but to be in such a constantly toxic, negative environment, it would be difficult for me to just like people after a while, you know?
I,
So
I think I
how
have
did you
kind of a,
keep that?
yeah, I think I have kind of a counterpunching personality. If I think that the room is too high, I will come in and I will bring that room down if I can. And if I think that room is too far down, I will come in and try to lighten things up. And that's not a great quality by any means, but that's just kind of how I see myself sometimes. But I was not a guy who got too much depressed, I think, by the circumstances going on in clients' lives. I was because I realized, here's the ugly truth that I think most lawyers would identify with, whether you're a criminal defense attorney or you're a divorce lawyer or whatever. At the end of the day, you're walking out of the courtroom and you're going to be okay. May not be true of your client. Your client may be going to jail. Your client may be losing the house, but you walk out of there hopefully intact.
Yeah.
So you don't have the same skin in the game. And if you're too empathetic, if you let it get you too far down, it will destroy you emotionally.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like I was being destroyed emotionally necessarily. The main thing, I guess, that was a frustration to me, Dave, was I would find myself meeting somebody and they would ask me about myself, and the first thing I would say was that I was a lawyer. I didn't like that. I didn't want to be a lawyer first and foremost. I
Yeah.
wanted to be something more, better, bigger than that. Now, many years later, I still don't know how I would introduce myself. Hi, I'm Ken. What do you do, Ken? Oh man, I play around in the fishing world. I don't know what else to say.
Oh
Um,
man, you could just be like, I am a fully autonomous, I have a fully autonomous position in bass fishing. I am absolutely undisputed.
no, well, I don't even know what that would mean, but I don't know. I don't know how I would describe myself, but I know I wouldn't say I'm a lawyer, which is kind of
Cheers.
can be an awkward pigeonhole.
No, that's hey man, that's gross. That's awesome because at least you know
Because
you've shed that shell of like, mm,
yeah, if you say you're a lawyer at a cocktail party or whatever, they've got a legal problem. They're going to ask you about it, and you're going to be
yep,
stuck in the corner with that person for the next 30 minutes.
yep,
If you say you're a bass fisherman, oh man, where do you fish?
yeah, yeah. And then you're like, yes,
So this is
yep,
a better conversation.
one
Um,
hundred percent.
so yeah, that's so from Game and Fish. I worked there for about 4 or 5 years. Then I went to BASS and worked in the communications department for a while. And then I became a senior editor of Bass Publications in 2005. And I worked there for, 10 years or so, 12 years. And then went to work for Fishing Tackle Retailer magazine, which is an industry publication. It's a business to business publication. And then I left there a few years back. And since then, I've been kind of consulting and writing and do a lot of work with the NPFL these days. So I enjoy what I do. I'm very lucky in that
Yeah.
respect.
So and this is kind of leading into the next thing. Like you said, you went into you moved into BASS, right? You started working for
Yeah.
Bass. So and you said you've been around professional bass fishing and you've watched the industry for a very long time. So in turn, you've watched the technology of rods, reels, boats, motors, screens, you name it. You've watched it all happen. How did you keep up with all of that? Like, how do you stay on
Who
top of
says I
that?
keep up?
Well,
Who says that anybody really keeps up with all of that? I don't know anybody who keeps up with all of it.
I,
Um,
I was just say only because I started fishing in 2020. I'm new. I'm a new guy. I'm your
yeah,
COVID angler. I'm the most hated guy in 2020 because I took up all your water and now nobody's out there but me. So like, it's just
you're a credit to our sport, sir. I will say
appreciate it.
that right
Yeah.
now. That is a hands down, no dispute.
Thank my mother-in-law. She bought me a rod for my birthday when I was,
That's wonderful.
yeah,
How cool.
yeah. She's a big fisher. She actually likes tenkara. So she's really into tenkara.
Ah, Japanese fly fishing without the reel. I like
Yes.
tenkara too.
It's
Tenkara.
Yeah,
Tenkara.
yeah. It's pretty crazy. Like she left a couple rods here. She moved to Tennessee. She left a couple rods here, so she can have them when she comes back. But she uses my stuff anyways. She'll just take them out, and we just go bass fishing. She loves it now. It's super fun. She was really into trout fishing for a long time, and then she was doing the tenkara for the panfish, and I was, we were fishing the same creek, and then I started catching bass, and she's like, I want one of those. I'm like, all right, come on, let's go.
So cool. I love fly fishing, and tenkara is out of Japan and fly fishing without the reel.
hmm
And
It's
the
nuts.
rods are, rod might be 13, 14 inches collapsed, but then it'll pull to 11 or 12 feet. Oh,
Yes.
great stuff. Great stuff.
She keeps a couple shorties here, so they end up being about 5 feet, but it's something that she can just pack in her little side pack. She is like the most outdoorsy lady. I love her to death. She's so cool. Um,
You're a lucky man, sir.
yeah, I'm extremely blessed. Trust me. So okay, but keeping up with all this stuff because now you're the editor, so you're the one going. That article's crap. This article's okay. Rewrite this. Like, how does that? How did that play into like your life as a whole? Were you taking like the pride in like, dude, I'm the editor. Y'all are gonna chill, or were you like, hey guys, I don't know what's going on. There's so much stuff, so just pick a topic and run. How does that work as an
Well,
editor for a
there's a lot
large
of
publication?
editors. There's a lot of editors at BASS and a lot of publications. And as senior editor of publications at that time, I would have some involvement in Bassmaster magazine, and I would have some involvement in Bass Times magazine. Uh, but actually, the bulk of my duties back then were with Bassmaster.com when it was just getting up and going. And and so yeah, you're choosing articles, you're working with outdoor writers, you're assigning concepts, you're assigning who's going to be covering which tournament
Mhm.
that's going on, and you're by and large working with what I would call known quantities. You know that Steve Price and Louis Stout and Tim Tucker are going to turn in a quality product. You know that there are certain other guys out there who are going to turn in a quality product, and you kind of know what their wheelhouse is. Oh, this guy's really good at technique stuff, and this guy's really good at where to stuff, and this guy's good at tournament coverage because not everybody is talented at all those things or cares about all those things equally, and
Mhm.
so that's a balancing act too. Um, but what you want from your outdoor riders, unfortunately, you don't always get, and that is you want ideas from them. Um, you're the editor sitting in the office, and I was on the road a fair amount. I'd cover a lot of elite events and stuff, and some opens, but by and large, you're hoping that they'll come at you with ideas. They'll say to you, "Hey, there's this new thing going on in the Midwest, and guys are doing this," or "Hey, there's this new thing in Florida, and guys are doing that." But unfortunately, that doesn't happen as much as I would like. Um, and the world of bass fishing at, at that level, and notice I'm putting my hand in the middle here, not
Yeah.
up high and not down low. At that level, middle,
Mhm.
bass fishing has changed in an unfortunate way. Bass fishing has become almost all about tournaments. Back in the day, when I joined Bass when I was 14 years old, there were a lot of articles about people you would otherwise never hear of.
Hmm.
Guys in Ohio who had a new worm method, guys in California who were flipping D. Thomas. He wasn't out winning tournaments yet, but he had this new cool technique. And you'd find out about those things. But now, unless a tournament pro does it, it doesn't get a spotlight put on it. What a shame.
You know, I agree um and disagree slightly only because like I'm more involved in the kayak world.
Uh-huh.
And it's a smaller, like more tight-knit community, I guess you could say. Or at least I don't know if it's smaller. But it's definitely very tight-knit. So it's very high on the, yeah, I mean there's those guys like you talking about earlier, like gatekeepers or stuff that like they keep their stuff to themselves, but it's very high on the encouraging new kayakers out there, encouraging new anglers. Like there's so many shows and so many, well, the internet now, YouTubes and stuff like that, where it's like, dude, here's how to rig a kayak, here's how to set this up, like come out here, come join us. Like my local tournament, I'm no tournament guy. Like I go, everybody, they catch fish in a tournament, I catch a nap. Like that's kind of how as good as my tournament will get most of the time. um but I enjoy doing them for the community aspect. And I feel like the community aspect, it's different in smaller bodies of fishing than it is in the tournament circuit. Does that make sense? I feel like the tournament circuit does have its own community, but it's very cliquish, at least from my experience. And my experience is only I have is what I've seen or what I've read. So in these articles that have come through Bassmaster and everything like that, I feel like it's more of there's a lot of clicks and there's a lot of individuals that stand, you know, higher than everybody else. I don't feel like he's the largest guy is going to go down to the top or the lowest finisher and be like, hey man, let me help you work on this or that or the other. Like, is that happening behind the scenes and it's just not written about? Because I feel like there's a lot of personality missing in a lot of fishing these days, or large scale fishing tournament circuits.
Ton of personality missing these days because we're not reading 3 or 4 magazines anymore. We're reading or we're engaging with 50 YouTube channels and a few websites and things like that. So it's far more diffuse. We did a show on Bass After Dark just last week called "Will Bass Fishing Create Another Legend?"
Oh, I loved it. Yeah.
And it all boiled down to the fact that the spotlight is so diffuse now that you wonder if, and the ugly thing to say, but the magazines and the outlets, the big tournament outlets now share so much audience with YouTube channels and stuff that they don't have the power that they used to. Um, I think it's going to take more than just one of those tournament outlets to create a star.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what I think is interesting about the kayak world, and I am truly an outsider, Dave, because you're in it.
Yeah.
You're an important player in it. I am
Mm.
nobody. I had a very nice company give me a kayak some years ago, but then I went on YouTube and I searched alligator kayak, and I did not like what I saw.
Yeah.
Uh, so I gave the kayak away, and because I'm not afraid to die, but I am afraid to die by alligator in a kayak.
Mm-hmm.
That's not my way. I don't want to
Nope.
go that way.
Yep.
Um, but there's the kayak world has kind of developed similar to the way the bass media world, the tournament world developed, except 40 or 45 years later and much, much, much faster. In the early days of the kayak advocates, there were no meaningful tournaments, and there was a lot of sharing, and there was a lot of guys were becoming kind of celebrities in the kayak world without ever fishing a tournament. Well, now the tide seems to have turned a bit, and you would know far better than I. But now it seems like the guys who win tournaments, the anglers who win tournaments, and it's not just guys, it's men and women. Christine
Oh yeah.
Fisher has shown us
Christine's a
so
hammer.
much
Yeah.
about that. Um, but now it's the tournament people who are getting all the attention or most of the attention, and I think that's unfortunate
Mm.
because just because people fish tournaments does not mean they are better anglers than the ones who don't. Many, 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 many of the best anglers I know do not fish tournaments, and anybody who's interested in big bass, truly interested in big bass, probably doesn't fish many tournaments. And especially in California, Dave, where you are,
Mm-hmm.
there's a real culture down there of guys who get out there in their big kayaks on Castaic or Casitas, and they're setting world record line class world records out there without being in a big boat.
Yep. Yeah. So the only reason I say that, I mean, I guess I worded the question kind of, I went ADD on it.
Oh, sorry if I misinterpreted.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You answered perfectly. I misconstrued the question because I got all hyper and I picked a ADD, man. You'll say 20 words and you pick word 7 and just focus on that for some random reason. I don't know why. So what I'm saying is, did you realize that you were watching, or did you watch the personality slowly leave
Oh,
and the tournament level become the most important thing?
well, I think we all have seen that, and I think that that's inevitable. Um, because when the internet came on strong in the aughts, I don't know what else to call them, the 2000 early 2000s,
Mhm.
um, and Internet 2.0 came into being, and YouTube got started getting some traction, and now instead of just the FLWs and the BASSs and a handful of others having the biggest part of the spotlight, that started diffusing, and everybody who wanted to got in. Naturally, the people with the biggest spotlight, BASS, FLW, later MLF,
Mhm.
they still have a more powerful platform than I do, or even than Dave Urke does. And so naturally, they've got the best shot at showing personality, and they've got the best shot at creating a new star. I thought the best, I mean, for my money, I'm all over the place here, Dave. Sorry. For my
It's all good.
money, 99% of bass fishing stars have been created by BASS. BASS was the only entity that was making a star, perhaps other than television, other than, Virgil Ward was a star of fishing, but he was pre BASS, really, mostly. Uh, then BASS comes along, and who become the biggest TV stars? Well, it's Bill Dance and Jimmy Houston and Roland Martin and Hank Parker. And they were able, because they were on TV, especially back in the days when we all had 4 channels, ABC, CBS, NBC, and PBS. Especially then, those guys, those guys then were bigger stars in the world of fishing than anyone will ever be again. No one will ever be as big a star in the world of fishing as Bill Dance. No one will ever get there because it's too many channels, too much diffusion.
Yeah, it's all washed out. I agree.
Yeah, but I thought, and kudos to BASS, great organization, legendary organization. They created all these stars, or created the opportunity for all these guys to go into television and be successful.
Yeah.
And that has mostly continued until pretty recently. Now I wonder who has the power to create a star. I really thought MLF had a shot at it, um, and it was so cool to watch these guys who I had worked with in my days at BASS, the Jeff Creets and Edwin Evers and Todd Faircloths and those guys, and now they're in a boat and we're watching them, and it's fun. And I think I enjoyed it maybe more than most because I knew these guys personally, but to watch them show the personality on TV throughout the day, that was a blast.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure it's really worked out overall.
Yeah. I can attest to that. Like I said, I'm a new angler. I came in 2020, so I came in the diffused era. I never got the. I mean, I'm sure it was on TV. It was just not my speed when I was younger. The Bill Dance, the Hank Parkers, the Jimmy Houston shows. Everyone, when I got into fishing, that's the people that everybody was referencing. So I had to do like deep dive YouTubes to figure out who they were talking about, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, total sense.
I hate to say that. Sorry, it's early. I always get something in my throat early. Um, but and I did this as an adult, as a man, so as a grown man. So I understood I need to respect history. I need to find out who these people are, right? The stars, right? I need to
Good
do
for you.
my due diligence if I'm ever going to have an understanding, because I'm an all or nothing guy, if I'm ever going to have a full understanding of what I'm getting into, I need to figure out where it came from. I'm just that guy.
Wow, if
Um,
only more people had that attitude, the world would be a better place.
I appreciate that. But that's what I'm saying is I'm a grown man. Kids do not care. They don't. I have a bunch and they just don't care. Um, they want to know here and now. They want to know what's cool right now. They do not care about how it got cool. So I'm sorry, I still have something in my throat. Hold on, I'm gonna hold the mic for 1 second.
And I guess that's where I'm different, Dave, because even when I was a kid, I wanted to know where it came from. I wanted to know why it was the way it is. And I
Yes,
find that endlessly fascinating. And I find that the people who don't want to do that are absolutely stupid.
back
Absolutely
to
stupid. And,
back to
and there,
being
there
back
are
to being
there
proud
are
of their ignorance.
they're probably there are elite series anglers who don't know who Ray Scott was. And oh yeah, oh yeah, there are elite series anglers who don't know who Ray Scott was. And I think that's okay as long as they're lined up against a wall and killed.
Firing squad. Okay. Got it.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I don't care if they live or die at this point because they are disrespecting the very industry that they're making a living on when they're not, cashing mommy and daddy's checks.
Yeah. I'm where I would love to go there.
They need to
I'm gonna
die.
I'm gonna
I'm good with that.
yeah.
I'm good. I have rage issues sometimes.
No, yeah. I mean, okay. So I listened to that Legends episode of Bass After Dark, which we will get into because we're slowly crawling through your life, which is great. And you were like, "Oh, it'll be a 10-minute show." Well, we're already at an hour and six, and we're still going, so we're good. Um, he just puts his head down, like, "Dang it." So, anyways, Terry Battisti, I respect him. I'm glad he's healthy again. I by the way, the Big Bass show was like I loved it. I'm sorry. You
Oh,
guys,
thank you.
it was
Thank you.
I wish you guys would do more. I understand it's a lot, but it's really
Oh
cool.
no, I'm speaking to you right now, Terry Battisti. When you're ready to get that thing fired up again, I talk to Terry all the time, but it was
Send it.
Terry who got too busy, and
Ah,
and so Terry probably has done as many Bass After Dark episodes as we ever did Big Bass podcasts.
I was gonna say he's like passed on episodes. Anyway, so he did say that there should be a required course about bass history. You know,
I
I
believe it. Yeah, yeah.
I'm back that. I back that 100%. I mean, I'm not a huge school smart person, but I find the importance of knowing where everything came from because what ends up happening is everything is cyclical and it will turn around eventually. We'll be back to like the somebody just won a big tournament. Was it Hank Cherry won a big tournament on a grub? Was it Hank Cherry?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like everyone, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, we need a grub again, dude. I had my son has more boxes of grubs than probably most pro anglers at this point, you know. But we know we fish a little creek, so you can catch everything on a grub here. But
No doubt.
yeah, I feel like everything is so cyclical, not only with uh, techniques, but with people, with energy, with the way people are. And if you don't understand where it came from, there's no reference point. So when someone's like, "Oh my gosh, he's the new hotness, he's so good," you know what he reminds me of? Let's talk about this for a minute. You know what I'm saying? And you could bring up multiple anglers from history and like their personality or their techniques or their way they approach stuff mentally. It's just okay. Well, Roland Martin was doing that years ago, and here's why, this.
Exactly.
And dude, would not, I would look at all these new YouTubes when I got into fishing, and I would not watch their how-tos because Roland Martin had a channel on how to tie a uni knot with two pieces of rope. And that was like, oh, this makes so much sense, like, and the way he would describe it and how he would explain it, I'm like, and the way people describe it today is, oh, it just works. I do the FG because it works. Cool. Why?
It's spot on. If you if you don't look back at how things got to where they are now, you simply fail to understand. You cannot understand today without without going back and looking at yesterday and the day before, because none of this stuff is happening in a vacuum. I remember when the Whopper Plopper came out and everybody was talking about, oh my God, what a great new design, how innovative. Well, no, the the Roberts Mud Puppy is the same lure, and it's been made continuously in Wisconsin since 1921,
You want a poor
over
man's Whopper
100
Plopper?
years.
You want a poor man's Whopper Plopper? Hook the front hook of your square bill to your line and start reeling. That's a Whopper Plopper right
There
there.
you go.
I'm just
It'll
saying. Yeah, it
spin and
just
churn, yeah,
the little death
or
spiral. They eat it. They eat it. So,
no doubt.
I mean, don't quote me because, like I said, I'm not a tournament guy. So, anything I say was going to be void. But
Well,
anyway, chance for four. But
people don't have a proper respect for history because they think history was a boring class they took in high school,
yeah,
and they don't understand that history is the way to understand the present.
to
I almost
understand the
wish we had a
present
different word.
and
Yeah,
give you inspiration for growth.
yeah.
There's
Everybody wants to talk about new, radical new lures. I have really not seen a new lure in the last 50, 60 years.
right. Yeah.
The chatterbait's a wonderful lure, but it's a combination of a whopper stopper dirty bird and a walker special. Um,
Or a pinch down Panther Martin.
yeah, could be
Yeah.
absolutely. And and the whopper plopper is just the Roberts Mud Puppy from 1921, and the Senko is kind of a new design, but you could clip the tail off a lot of baits and fish it the same as a Senko. Um, it's so there's some new combinations of old things, but I'm not sure how many of these things are truly new in the way that people think they are new.
Well,
And I
okay.
and people who don't appreciate history, they wear me out. I have very little use for them.
Right. No, I respect that. I'm similar. Just but I like I said, I'm an all or nothing. I need to know everything. And that's just me. And I try
That's
not to hold
cool.
other people. I try not to hold other people to that standard. Because if I held everybody to my standard, everybody would be 15 minutes early. That's just what it is. So
Well, I, I'm maybe I try to be a little more forgiving about that. It's one thing not to know the history; it's another thing to actively disrespect it, and that's where I draw the line. Really, if you don't know the history, I'm not going to hold that against you. Maybe you have better things to do, um, but to disrespect it is beyond the pale.
true. Okay.
You
So we
you cross the
said
line at that point.
you said and I agree. Bassmaster was or BASS was basically top of the line. They were creating the narrative, well, not the narrative, but the heroes, right? They were creating superstars. In turn, were they also creating villains? Like when MLF broke off, was that a time where they started
Ah,
creating villains?
I don't know that BASS has ever created a villain. I don't think they've ever that's never been a goal of
Hmm.
theirs. I can tell you that. I think BASS has by and large been a solid steward of the sport and the personalities in the sport. I've never seen them try to create a villain. I think that some guys have kind of they've BASS has done a decent job through the years of creating um, uh, conflict because
Yes.
the making you choose between Roland Martin and Bill Dance or between Rick Clunn and Larry Nixon. Who's your favorite? Doesn't mean you dislike the other guy, but if you have to pick a favorite, that's good for the sport. That's good for the numbers. That's good for the interest. More recently, but now it's been 15 years ago. Uh, were you a Skeet guy or a Kevin guy? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's a big deal because you know on some level they wanted you to think, well, you can't be both. Of course
Yeah.
you can be both, and
Yes.
you can equally support those guys, but it's good to have rivalries. I would say that they've never created a villain, but they have at times tried to create rivalries, which I think is healthy. I think the sport is better when there are some rivalries.
100% agree. Like I find that to be super interesting because that was part of my deep dive was I was looking at all these verses and I'm like, where does
Yeah.
that happen today? I mean, I get it. Like the guy with no screen versus the kid with 50 screens is the new verses, but even then like
Great observation.
I mean, That's all I got to go on, really. But what I was saying is, so they didn't necessarily create villains, but they created good rivalries. So what I have noticed, because I came in post split,
Yeah.
Bass, like you said, Bass never really created a villain. They just kind of stood on business, as a term would say, and they kept going status quo with their chin held high and their top button, their collar button buttoned, while other tournament circuits came in and were like, "Why would you do that when you could, do this?" and da, 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 and tried to almost not necessarily villainize Bass, but create that competitive type rivalry with tournament circuits.
Yeah, and I don't think that MLF did anything wrong. I really admired a lot of what MLF was trying to do, and I still think that a lot of their format is spectacular. Um, there's some things I don't like about each format,
Yeah.
but I also try to live in the real world and understand that there's reasons for that. Um, and FLW and BASS never really had a war, although there was a schism in 2006
Mm.
where a lot of guys left. The Elite Series was just getting started, and a lot of the guys who had been well established at Bass decided they didn't want anything to do with at that time an 11 tournament series, annual series, and $5,000 entry fee for each event. So you had a lot of guys like the Larry Nixons and the Jay Ellises and so forth, the Ron Shuffields and on, who left BASS to go over to FLW. But I don't think anybody was demonized publicly. Now, privately, there was a lot of angst and ugly commentary, but publicly, it was mostly good natured.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody's got to keep up appearances to keep a business running. But
Yeah,
what was that
and
like for you? Because I mean, you were sitting in the middle of all of this, right? You were back there just working away and just listening and hearing, like you said, like all the private conversations. I'm not asking for you to spit out names and what they were saying, but what was that like for you? Because I mean, this guy's my friend, but now he's talking smack on this other guy that's my friend. Like, where do you sit in that? Like, where does my brain would short circuit on that one? So
no,
how does
you'd be
that work?
fine. You'd be fine because you have a high emotional, yeah, high EQ. But yeah, it was mature people understand that like you and I, Dave, you and I can be friends, and then there's somebody else that we both know, and you love him and I hate him, and you and I can still be friends if we're mature, reasonable individuals. Um, and that's kind of the way it was, I think, for most people. I tried to maintain a good relationship with all the guys who had left BASS, and because the split didn't happen until I was gone. Well, if we're talking about that first split with FLW,
Mhm.
um, uh, I try to maintain a nice relationship with all those people because part of my job is being able to pick up a phone, call this guy, and he answers, so I can get my quotes or I get my information. And I also have a different kind of relationship with anglers than most because I'm media. I help them reach their audience that serves their sponsors, so they have an incentive to be nice to me, and that's not lost on me. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you that I've got hundreds of great friends who are professional tournament anglers because that's not true.
Yeah.
I have a few friends who are tournament anglers, and I love them dearly, but a lot of people are just incentivized to be nice to Ken Duke, and I appreciate that too. That's nice. Um, but I don't take it for granted that these people are all friends of mine. I, I, it's what's important is that I have a good working relationship with them, and I also have a handful of friends in that world who I can truly say if I needed something, they would come to my aid. Um, but that's a small number, and I get a big kick out of the guys who are huge name droppers, and they think that everybody's their friend just because they're in the media. Well, those people are morons, and they can be lined up behind the Elite Series guys who never heard of Ray Scott.
Yeah. Yeah. You're- a full firing squad. You got a double layer lineup. I love it.
We need a lot of ammo, Dave.
Well, I mean, don't come to California because it costs an arm and a leg, and chances are you won't get it. So
We'll
it's
do it.
just
We'll do it here in Florida.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Trust me, we've talked about moving multiple times. It's
Where
coming.
would you move? Where would you go?
Okay, so my sister moved to Texas. I went to Texas, and it reminded me of, I live in Sacramento. So it reminded me of she lives in the Sacramento of Texas. Um,
Really?
yeah, she
Cool.
lives just outside of Dallas. So it reminded me a lot of like California, and that's not really what I'm looking for. I've traveled the US quite a bit through skateboarding and, just traveling and just being, young and having fun. Um, I always said, I mean, until 3 years ago or 2 years ago, I have always said, when I retire, I am moving to Louisville, Kentucky. Because at the
Why
time,
Louisville, Kentucky?
well, when I visited Louisville, Kentucky, I spent a couple months there, skateboarding, and then I ended up there for a couple months a different time. And at the time, all I did was skateboard. So skateboarding was, it's prominent there. It's a nice little town, and it was my first experience of not going into the main city, because that's a college town, and they have like a downtown old town. They have the big center down in the middle of downtown. All that stuff. But it was my first experience of leaving downtown and staying with someone like a local, not staying at a hotel. And we drove down roads, and you would look down these roads, and you look down these long, I thought were streets, but they were actual driveways. And there was people just sitting on their porch, enjoying their life. And I was like, that's what I want when I get older. Like, I just want to be able to wake up, look at some beauty, because it's very green and lush, and just enjoy the quietness. Now, yeah, they have the UPS main hub. They are one of the largest tobacco fields in the US. Like, there's a lot of stuff in Louisville. So I mean, it wouldn't be
Yeah.
hard to get like a job in retirement if I needed a job, but I just wanted a place to go and relax. And I experienced Louisville. Well, a couple years ago, my mother-in-law moved to Crossville, Tennessee, which is a midtown between like Nashville and Knoxville. And I fell in love with it. I thought it was wonderful. I'm not really a West Tennessee kind of guy, because it's too much like California. I would move more eastern towards the mountains. Because when it's time to move, like, I grew up in a big city. I grew up in Long Beach, California, so I'm looking for something that's not a big city. So I would start moving towards more rural areas. I love South Carolina. I love North Carolina. And this was all before I got into fishing. Well, not the Tennessee part, but the rest of it was before I got into fishing. And so, yes, I would definitely move somewhere southeast where I could do some fishing. I could enjoy the nature. I love the heat. A lot of people don't. So that's more but my wife likes the mountains. So that's why I'm thinking more East Tennessee, where it's a good neutral point for both of us.
I've got a great friend who is your age, almost exactly. And he has a job where he can work from home and they homeschool their kid. And a couple years ago, they decided they were going to spend a month in a town where they thought maybe they would move one day. And I thought, that is genius. That is genius. Would you be in a position where you've got young kids, but would you be in a position where you could do that in the summertime, maybe spend a month somewhere in?
I I I wish I could say yes, because that would be the goal, you know.
Wouldn't that be cool?
It would be that is my speed. Like, I need to test the waters. Like, I don't
Yeah.
just, you know,
In
my
a
wife's
month, you get a feel for a place.
yes, I'm very much a process guy. So I need that process before execution. That's why I'm a very good finish carpenter, because I don't just, slam it together and then fix it as needed. Like, I make sure that it is complete before it's built. I go through every step of the way. That's why I'm up early in the morning looking at stuff and all this kind of stuff. And I stay up late at night doing all my paperwork for my work, because I'm a process guy. I don't need everything to be perfect, but I need to know all the hips and valleys of the whole process so that I know how to streamline it or take care of it. So yes, that would be my process before moving somewhere, would definitely be taking some time, getting a small spot, a month or two. Just let's test it out with the kids. Let's test it out with the wife. Let's see. And I would do it in multiple seasons, because every place is great
Yeah.
in the summer, So yeah. So
Yeah, if you're a soft Floridian like me and you see a snowflake, you're going to say, okay, this is no way here, not here.
yeah, that's the problem. My wife loves the snow. I absolutely am not a snow person. So, I mean, I could live in a desert, to be honest. I don't, it's more about trying to get it right for the kids and the wife. But yeah,
You can always visit the snow.
yeah, yeah, yes, exactly. That's what I say. I, we live at the base of Tahoe, basically. We live in an hour from Tahoe, an hour and a half from Tahoe. So it's she can get her snow whenever she wants here.
There you go.
So, anyways, but this isn't about me. We're gonna go back to you. Um, nice
No,
deflection,
it's
Ken.
more
I like
interesting to
it.
talk about you, but
No way. So moving forward, we talked about the competition in bass and you being stuck in the middle and you being a very
mm,
healthy adult about the situation, going, that's fine, you don't like him, we're still cool. Everybody needs to be nice to Ken
yeah.
Duke because they feel there's some sort of edge there that they get. Where
Be nice
in
to Ken Duke, damn it.
Yeah,
That's
be
all I
nice.
ask.
Dude, I
Return my
wanted one of
calls.
those. I wanted one of those listen to Bob Marley shirts that said listen to Ken Duke. I thought that would be genius. You know what I'm saying? So
That's all I ask.
yeah, right. So okay. So moving on from there, like how did you find your friendships? Was it like-minded individuals, or was it like you found something about somebody's personality that attracted you?
Wow, that's never thought about that necessarily in that way. But I think we all enjoy like-minded individuals. We all enjoy people who have the same interests that we do. We all I try to hang out with people who elevate me and not drag me down. I become more discriminating about stuff like that as I've gotten older. I kind of do a um, uh, on years ending in 0 and 5, I will sit down and I will think to myself, how much more do I know now than I knew 5 years ago? And I often think, always think, God, I was so stupid 5 years ago. How did I possibly not have a better grip on how the world worked? And so, but yeah, all those things, you hit on it. It's like-minded. It's people who carry themselves well. I jokingly say my friends are like good luggage. You can take them anywhere.
Got it. I love it. Yeah.
And
Some of my closest friends are guys that like they're like me because we all are, at least, yes, we're very like-minded, but we'll say the thing that everybody's thinking that no one wants to say. I, I,
that gets me
I
in trouble, Dave. I don't know about you, but
same, but if they're also the same guys that if we're going to get in trouble, we're all going down together and I'm totally here for it. So it's, that's how I've found my people over the years. Now I've had to learn how to curve my language because, small children.
yeah,
Um,
sure.
and by no means am I a great example of my belief system, but like, because I will swear and I like nicotine pouches and caffeine like up the yin yang, and I do my thing. But at the end of the day, like a belief system doesn't stop my relationships. What keeps my relationships whole are the guys that I would go to war for. And I know that they would go to war for me. That's how I keep my relationship, or at least how I pick my relationships. So I don't know.
I think that's
I
just
feel
smart
like
and mature.
well, I just feel like in bass fishing, especially when the deeper I've gotten into it, I feel like there's so many things that are said behind the scenes. I prefer the guys that will say it to my face. Um, and so I will stick with those guys. So in turn, I ask you, is that kind of how you went about picking it? Or not I'm not asking like technically how you pick your friends, but in a high controversy environment, are your friends the guys that that would go to war for you and you'd go to war for them? Or
I don't think I live in a high controversy environment. I think I live in a pretty low controversy environment.
oh, well,
And
I just
so I
always
think
assumed behind the scenes it's high controversy because that's all I know.
wow, I don't think so. I think behind the scenes it's pretty low controversy by and large, or at least the controversies are so minuscule. They're tempests in teapots.
Ah,
Um, yeah, there's a schism between the forward facing and the non-forward facing, and there's a schism maybe between the big manufacturers and the small manufacturers, and there's a schism maybe between the NPFL and BASS and MLF, but day to day, none of those things, day to day, none of those things really seem to enter the fray much. Every once
Hmm.
in a while they'll pop up, but it's infrequent and and largely inconsequential.
I love that.
Um, and I think that, and this maybe I hadn't thought about it this way before. You're making me think about things, Dave. You're taking me down scary paths. Uh, I think that with regard to picking friends, how often do we really pick friends? How often do we say, I see that person over there, I want to be their friend? And how often do we just kind of fall into friendships? I think that at least in my life experience, I fall into friendships more than I deliberately pick friendships.
I hindsight is 2020. So when I look back at the question and I'm listening to you talk, I'm like, that's pretty naturally how it happens. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I like that. I'm sorry. It was one of those things. I was kind of like, not necessarily directing the conversation, but I was kind of getting to the point of like, because you've been around everything and you've seen everybody and you know quite a few people, like who are your safe people, like I find that,
Safety. Wow.
that's kind of what I was kind of gearing towards, because I also find, like I said, I would go to war for my homies, but I ADD'd the whole
Yeah.
thing. um
But you
where's
know what? You say you'd go to war for your homies, but also because those are your closest friends, you would also speak the truth to them and say, hey, man, you're wrong on this one.
Yep.
You're off base. You're failing to understand ABC. And why don't we take a better look at this? That's also part of being a friend and having somebody's back and all that. And sometimes they take that well, and sometimes they don't take that well. And if they don't take it well, that might be a sign, because I've been in that situation. You've been in that situation. They don't
Hmm.
take the advice well, and you say that might be a sign that it's going to be tough for us to be friends. If you can't take if you can't take the truth, or the
Yeah.
truth as I see it. I tend to say that a lot. I tend to say the truth as I understand it, because I believe there's only one truth, but we all have a different idea of what it is, and it's possible that none of us are right.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Spoken like a lawyer. No, I'm just kidding.
Ah,
No, I
too many
love it.
years of too many years of training and all that.
So
Again, I think that's a critical thinking thing.
I love it. Yes, I'm, I'm, yeah, I'm on that page with you. So, okay, we're going to jump a little bit. The first experience I've ever heard of the name Ken Duke came on a podcast called a Bass Talk Live, right? And this
Yeah,
guy, Mark
yeah.
Jeffries, who I think is so awesome.
Mark
I
Jeffries is awesome.
Dude, and I Googled him. He looks way different than I expected. But point being is, um, so um, he had brought on the bass fishing historian, greatest mind in fishing, in bass fishing,
Hmm.
Ken
Then you said,
Duke.
"Wow, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. If he thinks this guy is the greatest mind in bass fishing, that's ridiculous."
Well, I was naive at the time, so I was like, "Oh my
Well,
gosh, this is the guy." No, I'm just kidding.
must be
So,
true.
where did you get that title? Did Jeffries give you that title, or have you just been analoging fishing for so long? Because I mean, there's volumes behind you. They might be full of nothing, but point being
No,
is there's
they're all full of
volumes.
paper.
Well, yeah, well, yeah.
They're all
I mean,
full of
mine.
paper.
I would have a cardboard painting, but what I'm saying is, where where did you not only collect that title, but where did you find the wherewithal to be like, you know what, someone needs to document this?
Whew, where did I get that title? I've been very fortunate and honored that some people have said some very nice things about me. I think that a lot of what they've said that has been complimentary to me is because I've been one of few people who has gone down that path to try to document some of the history of the sport and to try to look at it with a perspective that is more than a snapshot. You know, we can all take a snapshot, and that tells us where we are in that moment, but it doesn't tell us how we got there. It doesn't tell us where we're going. And I've tried hard through my career as a fishing writer to connect some of those dots. Now, not everything I write connects those dots, because I've written many how does Greg Hackney throw a spinnerbait in spring when the water is 12 inches of visibility and it's below 68 degrees? I've written a million of those stories because you got to do that to pay the bills. But I've also, where I could, I've tried to expand my lane, you know, and to do more history stuff. And at the great risk of boring you to tears, Dave Erkey, I will
Not
tell you
boring
that
me.
on my laptop here, I have a little label that has 6 words, but it's really 3 words repeated in a different order. And it says, your own lane. And by that, I mean, when people say stay in your lane, I don't take that as an insult. I
No.
take that as a reminder that all of us have a lane, whether we like it or not. And that lane is where we have competence, where we can be taken seriously, where we can be somewhat authoritative. So first line is your own lane. And the second line says own your lane. Same 3 words, different order. It's something that I came up with for myself. So if this is my lane, I try to own it. And I try to make sure that as much as possible, I am an authority on this lane. And if somebody else tries to get in my lane, I try to crush them like the bug that they are. And, and that sounds really mercenary. And it's not quite accurate when I say that. But if somebody tries to get in my lane and they're wrong, I'll call them out on it. And if somebody tries to get in my lane, which doesn't happen often because not many people are interested in my lane, but my lane is somewhat distinctive. It's that history lane. It's that metrics lane of tournament fishing and bass fishing. It's that. Then because I'm somewhat unique in that regard, I think people have noticed me. And part of that comes from when I decided I wanted to be a bass fishing writer as a kid. I realized immediately, hey, this and whitetail deer hunting are the 2 most competitive parts of the outdoor writing world. That's it. If you are in one of those categories, you got a lot of competition. What am I going to do to stand out from the competition, and where can I be different and better? And so that's it. And because I'm kind of unique and my lane is kind of unique, I've had people notice me and say nice things sometimes. Sometimes. Now a lot of people hate me. A lot of people dog me out on my own show. They dog me out. So, but and I don't
You
mind that,
asked them to.
sort of. But no, well, we asked. Well, that's if
Yeah.
you're talking about what we call bad comments, yeah.
Yeah.
But some people will call me out seriously, and I don't mind being called out. But I will say only this: if you're going to call me out, if you're going to challenge me, you better bring your A game. Because if you do not have your A game, I assure you that I have mine.
Oh,
And it's not going to go well for you if you don't have an A game. It's not going to go well. So,
yeah. I've heard. I have heard. Now, you say kind of unique. Ken, you are like, in my understanding, the only one. So kind of unique is an understatement. Now, I'm sure there's other people that are trying to record the annals of fishing as much as they possibly can,
Terry
including in
Battisti. Yeah.
right. Well, he doesn't count, remember? Because you have more books than he does, right? So
Well, there's
so
that.
yeah.
But no, I
So
love
I'm just
Terry Battisti.
yeah, he's a great dude. He is, yeah, he's my people. The way he communicates and how jovial and how well he takes everything. I'm like, you're the best, dude.
Ah, he's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. He's like that big giant bear. You just want to give him a hug and be like, hey, my name's Dave. By the way, I'm a hugger. Just
Yeah.
make it
Terry's
feel
a
weird.
6'3", 260-pound teddy bear.
Yes, I love it. I love it. So, but what I'm saying is, you have all this on record, whether it's on paper or on computer files. Are you going to
Oof.
do a book, or is this just something for your own personal enjoyment, and you're just going to keep it to the grave?
Well, what a tough question, Dave. Dave, you're just hitting me with the tough questions, man. It's been brutal here on the Whole Angler. Just
Sorry.
brutal. No, I'm kidding. Uh, you know, I want to do a book. I hope I live long enough to do the book. The book has not been as big a priority as it should be because books in the bass fishing world don't sell. Um, Books in the fishing world anymore don't really sell. I've done a couple of books, but they weren't really my books. One was the Bass Fishing Vault about
Mhm,
15, 16 years ago. And it was interesting, but it's not really my book. Another
mhm.
was a book I did with Glenn Lau, the great underwater cinematographer. If there were a Mount Rushmore about of bass fishing, he would be on it, in my opinion. But it was Glenn's book, um, and also about 15, 16 years ago. I haven't done anything since, although I really wanted to. What holds me back is A, making a living, doing the kind of stuff that consumers actually want. But I do hope, Dave, to put it all together one day and have a really good bass fishing book that's not just the history of the sport, but is also a commentary on some of the things going on in the sport, the direction of the sport. It won't be a lot about how to because other people. I don't have the credentials for that. I'm an avid bass fisherman, but nobody listens to me about how I rig a Senko.
How
Nobody
to's are a
cares.
dime a dozen.
Well, yeah, how to's are a dime a dozen. That's very true, but there's also a million ways to do things. And
Yes.
anybody who wants to come out and say this is the authoritative way to do something is, in my opinion, just making stuff up.
My
I
pond, we
don't.
Carolina rig a buzzbait, like,
Yeah, oh, there you
yeah,
go. Yeah,
yeah,
I Carolina rig a jigging spoon. It's deadly.
yeah, yeah, no, yeah,
And
it's,
that's part of the ugliness that I had to learn about when I started the outdoor writing thing, was that when you roll an article out there about how to slow roll a spinnerbait, you have to sell it as the deadliest tactic devised by man. And these bass pros who are sponsored by lure companies have to say that this piece of garbage with a treble hook on it is the deadliest bass lure of all time. And that's unfortunate.
speaking of spinner baits, I just had my buddy Flint Pierce from Battle Baits. He makes uh double spinner baits that are like just killer. I'm not going to say like they outperform for me, so I just run those. I'm not sponsored by him by any means. They're
Yeah.
built different, so I really am just because I'm a huge. I love a spinnerbait. Like I love a spinnerbait. I love throwing a frog, and I love flipping. And I just that you can catch me doing those three pretty much all day. I don't care if it's a
Hard to beat those
six
things.
hundred foot. It's like a 600 foot reservoir. I'm gonna be dragging the spinnerbait. Like I'll do it. Um, but correct me if I'm wrong. I'm most likely wrong, but I feel like the spinnerbait was the original A rig. Just a personal opinion.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, a couple of things on that. The spinnerbait's been around since like 1910 or so, the Shannon twin spin.
Hmm.
And interesting story, you reference it to the A rig. When BASS first decided they were going to ban the A rig, which in my opinion was a cowardly move, driven by a couple of pro anglers who were afraid of getting their asses beat. Um,
Bravo.
then the first definition they had of an A rig, they showed it to me. For some reason, I was in the loop on how they were going to define it, and I looked at it and I said, "You just banned the spinnerbait."
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, the spinnerbait is the first A rig. You're right. And what it's fascinating you mentioned the spinnerbait because when I was a kid and I was first reading about the sport, the spinnerbait was the most versatile lure in your tackle box. That's what everybody said. That's what everybody said. And then about 20 years ago, before your time as a bass guy,
Oh yeah.
um, the spinnerbait fell out of favor and got largely replaced by the chatterbait and the square bill crankbait. And fishing is fashion. People people don't think about that, in my opinion, often enough. Fishing is fashion. You look at the colors that were hot 30, 40 years ago, they're mostly gone. In 1973, Bill Dance wrote a book about worm fishing, and he said any color worm is fine as long as it's blue.
I've heard
Dear
you say
God, you can't
this.
even
Yeah.
find a blue plastic worm these days. You haven't been
Right.
able to find a blue plastic worm for 40 years. Um, but that's what Bill said in 1973. And blue plastic worms worked then, and they work now. Tequila Sunrise was a hot color in the 80s. Motor oil was a hot color in the 80s. Those colors still catch bass, but they fell out of favor because
Yes.
something else came along. And and the chatterbait was new and sexy, and the squarebill was kind of got the spotlight, even though it's been around since the early 70s. And these things come in and out of fashion because somebody wins a big tournament, or somebody puts a big spotlight on it, or some big company has a major marketing budget to push it. But the
Yeah.
bass never stopped being attracted to these old lures, but they fell out of fashion with fishermen. We're far more fashion conscious than we admit.
Oh, I did a whole episode a while ago on superstition and
Oh
how,
yeah, yeah,
I mean, I had, I was really, like I said, I'm a rabbit hole guy. So I had a few anglers on, like Bailey, Bailey, a few other
yeah.
guys to
Bailey's a
talk
wonderful
about
guy.
like fishing superstitions and like, you know, this color or this style or what's your superstition, bananas in the boat, etc. Like, the old, banana spider on the ship, but we didn't really get into
Yeah,
it too much. But like,
the
that kind of
spiders
stuff.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then I had the leading mind in behavioral sciences, which is a man named Stuart Vise. I had him on the show, and we talked about superstition and the base of superstition, where it comes from, because I'm a rabbit hole guy. And what it came down to for me, my perspective is everything is based around a personal experience, and people relate what he even said this in one of his books. People relate their personal experience to either positive or negative, and that's what creates superstition. So to say that fishing is fashion, it's 100% true because it's all based around that person's personal experience and how big of a stage they have to speak on it.
spot on. I think that's absolutely right. And I'm amused by superstitions. I
Same.
think they're fun. I think they're interesting, and I think they're by and large harmless.
Yeah.
Trying to think. I think it was Denny Brower told me one time that going into the final day of like the 1982 Classic, he wrote the number 13 on the underside of Paul Elias's cap. And Paul went out and won that Classic. I
Oh,
think that's the right story. And then
yeah.
Denny showed it to him afterwards, and Paul said, I ought to
Yeah.
strangle you.
That's so
But
good.
yeah, isn't that amusing? And like you said, the spiders and the bananas coming over in the boats and stuff like that. That was kind of the origin of that one. And and we all know a lot of guys who won't let a banana get in their boat, but they probably actually never had a negative experience. They just are piggybacking off somebody else's superstition. Dean Rojas always carries a duck decoy with him that he calls buckshot.
Yeah.
Um, there's and guys wear lucky shirts, lucky underwear, lucky this.
Yep.
It's amusing.
Don't they don't shower, or they got their lucky lady or whatever. Like there's always something. I was only saying that to like reiterate that fishing is fashion.
Yeah.
It's all based on experience and then how big you have to, or how loud you can be in that experience, whether it be a company that promotes you or a stage.
But I think also fishing is marketing a lot. This is also before your time, but back in the day, wow, I apologize for saying that 1,000 times.
Oh, it's all
Back
good.
in the day, there were fishing reports in newspapers, and they would come out on Thursdays, and you'd look at the fishing report, and it would say that the bass are hitting strawberry plastic worms and crawdad colored crankbaits. Well, by God, you tied on a strawberry plastic worm and a crawdad crankbait. Well,
Oh
guess
yeah.
what? Most bass were going to be caught on that weekend: strawberry plastic worms and crawdad crankbaits, because that's what everybody tied on. Was it really the bass's preference? Maybe. Or maybe it was just an effort to sell more strawberry plastic worms and crawdad crankbaits. Um, Goes back to that fashion thing, that that buy-in, that borrowing somebody else's confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. Okay, so we're gonna go back to the book thing, and here's where we're gonna tie this in, because when I heard of the Big Bass podcast coming out, I was like, oh, he's gonna do it. I thought it was gonna be like a full podcast of all the history of bass fishing. Like you were gonna make it a book, a slow release, like episode by episode, this year, this thing, and then I
Gotcha.
got into it and I
Gotcha.
was like, this is actually even more interesting than I thought. So
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, because you'd been on a ton of other people's podcasts. I've heard you many a times, and finally you had your own. Like,
Yeah.
how accomplished did you feel? Like, all right, I'm doing my own now, or was it just like, all right, I've heard enough of this. I'm finally gonna do something.
I got I got pestered by a couple of wonderful friends into finally doing a podcast. I like you said, I'd been on. I wonder if I've been on as many bass fishing podcasts as anybody. You know, again because I've got a weird lane. I'm not a
Mhm.
bass pro. I'm not this or that. I'm not a scientist. So two friends of mine pestered me into doing a podcast. One was Edwin Evers, and the other was Brian the Carpenter. And I- I'm grateful for those guys. They're wonderful friends, and B, they are the driving forces behind making me do it. Um, Brian the Carpenter, of course, I punished by making him do a podcast with me.
He's a
Uh,
solid dude. I love that guy.
he's
Oh, good.
awesome.
Yeah.
And Edwin Evers, I kept saying to him, "Man, you're so good on camera. You need to get your own thing going." And he started Project E and Edwin Evers Fishing, and his stuff is so good and so polished. And he's the right guy because he's very smart. He's very dedicated. He's passionate, and he does the thing that not enough pros do. He makes it look fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
like I I'm a big Edwin Rivers fan because I commented one
Evers,
time and I
yeah,
Evers does not come up in my spell check. But yeah. So
yeah. Edwin's great. Brian
so
the
they
Carpenter
encourage
is an amazing partner.
Brian is he's a solid dude. I've come to him for so much like different things, whether it's business advice, which I didn't take and I started my own company. Um which now I'm understanding
He's
why he gave me the advice he did. But he'll shoot you straight, dude. Like he's a very solid human. I like
he's
him
a
a lot.
big Dave Urkey fan too.
I mean, I don't know. He answers my calls and I appreciate it. How's that sound? Uh,
He doesn't answer everybody's calls. Not everybody, but Brian and I have been friends a long time, and even before I really knew him well, I admired what he was doing on Ike Live. Because Ike Live is a unique show, and and there's a lot of cat herding going on Ike Live. And I thought, wow, this guy's fighting the good fight out there.
yeah, he is, dude.
And and no matter what, I always thought that you got Mike on there, who's maybe the biggest personality in bass fishing. You got Pete Glusick out there, one of the great educators in bass fishing. You got uh, Dave on there. He's hilarious and wildly offbeat. Um, you
But yet
got
so accurate.
Becky. So many personalities. Becky's so smart,
Mm,
offering so much great insight. But the guy who's kind of helping to set the tone and organize it all was this guy over here, Brian the Carpenter, and engineering it all. And I thought, wow, this guy's great. And then I got to know him and just love the guy as a friend. And so it was anyway, that I'm off on a tangent now. Sorry, Dave.
it's all good. No, I appreciate it. I feel like Brian undersells himself or under explains himself on a regular basis. Like that man is credited with not only the cat herding of Ike Life, but like the small comments, whether it be the one liners in Bass After Dark or Ike Live or anything like that, or his direction when he has questions. Like he is just, I feel like he doesn't give himself enough credit because that man is
No question
phenomenal.
about that. Yeah, he's awesome. He can take our show up or send it off in a wild new direction in just a handful of words. And a lot of people, I'm sorry if I'm changing the subject here.
No, 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 no.
Bass After Dark um, is there's three partners on Bass After Dark. We're equal partners on it. It's me, it's Brian, it's Nathan Benson. And Nathan, a lot of people probably thought that, oh, Brian the Carpenter, he's the engineer, he's the guy flipping the switches and clicking the buttons. No, I wasn't, I didn't want Brian to get bogged down in that. I wanted his personality on the show and his
Yes.
vibe on the show. And
Yes.
And Nathan is a genius at all the engineering stuff, but Nathan has absolutely no interest in being on camera.
Yes.
So he's the disembodied voice
Yes.
on the show, and he's the voice of the top 10. And Nathan is insanely funny. Um, and Nathan is a oh, all right. Here's my gripe about Brian the Carpenter. A lot of people think Brian the Carpenter comes up with most of the top 10. No, 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 not even close. Nathan and I dominate the top 10. Now, Brian did write the most savage joke in the top 10 we've ever done, but he does not do most of them. So
Well, that leads me into, because you did the Big Bass podcast, which is its
yeah,
own entity and
yes,
absolutely phenomenal. If anybody hasn't had a chance, it's still on Apple Podcasts. Trust me.
oh
Go
yeah,
back, take a listen. If you really want the history and the science behind some of the largest bass caught in history per state, according to available record, whether it's true or false, it's on there, which I
there's
find
that.
really interesting that there's the true or false of it. I'm like, yes, like, okay. So anyways,
Yeah,
you know,
we love doing the Big Bass podcast. That was a partnership, again, an equal partnership between me, Terry Battisti, and Nathan Benson.
mhm.
Nathan again filling that role behind the scenes and making sure that we look as good as he can make two old ugly guys look. And Terry and I doing the research and presenting the stuff. And that was a lot of fun. And I hope we'll resurrect it at some point because it helped us meet a lot of cool people in the big bass world, learn a lot. I even got to be on the news in Idaho because we did the research and the deep dive down the rabbit hole and discovered the true story behind the Idaho state record caught in the 1940s by a woman.
Yes, yeah,
It,
yes,
it,
dude, the wife caught it. I love that.
it
I'm sorry,
caused them to
I
rework the
just blew the
record
whole
book.
episode, but yeah.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I hope people will watch it, but if they don't, that's cool.
It's
But
so
it
cool.
caused them to rework the record book, and I was on uh, Boise News one night, uh, the Boise News channel, or not the
That's
channel,
so
but their
cool.
local news station.
Their broadcast, their publication.
Yeah,
Yes. That's
yeah.
so cool. So you went from Big Bass Podcast to what is now the Titan in the Room, Bass After Dark. And you cannot feel like you're a
The
Titan all you
Titan in
want.
the room.
You can,
what,
all right. We're gonna
what does
talk
that
about
mean?
this.
But
Okay.
by the way, for a while we were doing both, but
Right.
then Terry got too busy because he's got real world stuff going on with his work and so wasn't able to do it. But what is Titan in the room? Come on now.
T-
Our audience
Titan,
is not that big.
Ken, my mom
Yes.
listens to this show. That's my audience. You know, I might have a few people here and there, but like, no, I'm kidding. I appreciate everybody that listens. But what I'm saying is that is a Titan in the room. I don't care who you are in bass fishing. Everyone knows both Ken Duke and Brian the Carpenter, and everyone knows Bass After Dark. Like that is not a a light thing. Like I feel like you guys were in the running this last year for best bass fishing podcast.
Well,
Like you
Dave, a
were
lot
in
of
the
people
running.
don't know this. We won the Nobel Prize for bass podcasting. So there's that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, that's I appreciate the kind words. I really do. And yeah, we were in the running. I don't know how all that works, but um,
This is the new radio.
I'm not. This is the new radio. I used to have a radio show, by the way, a hunting and fishing radio show many
What?
years ago. Yeah,
What?
about
When did
20,
we cover
25
this?
years ago, I had a hunting and fishing radio show in Georgia. It was, it was local.
Okay.
But anyway, we really enjoy doing Bass After Dark. When the show is good, I feel like it's really good. I feel like it's as good as anything out there. When the show is not good, still feel like we're usually okay. But it's fun to do. It's fun to work with my friends Nathan and Brian. We have got a great intern in Justin Kirby Kingsley.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of work. And right now we're not doing a very good job of monetizing it. We're doing a terrible job. Turns out none of us are salespeople. We need to do better on that. When you say everybody knows the show, I think that's an aspect of the fact that I've been in the industry a long time. and Brian's been in that podcasting world a long time. So there are not many people we don't know,
Mhm.
and most of them will still return our calls.
Yeah. Yeah. So first off, a bad show is perspective because I haven't heard one yet. There's one that disappeared that I was halfway through and had to put on hold because I was at work and never finished and was super upset about it. But you know,
Yeah. Show
that's just
86.
that's me personally. Yeah, yeah, the infamous
Show
86,
80. Yeah. Show 86 got 86th, ironically.
I don't know why we don't you don't have an Achigan hat that just has 86 on it. I think that would be
That's
so
a
good.
great idea. That's genius. Of course, like Chicken would never want to make that because Josh and those guys know that that ain't going to sell. But but that would be cool.
Just for the staff, just have an
There you
86
go.
hat. Every now and then people will ask, dude, I'm talking promotions. 5 years down the line, everybody's going to ask for an 86 hat. Like how good did Milliken do with his home area code? You know what I'm saying? Like
Uh,
you could pull a Milliken with the 86.
yeah, that would be interesting. There's another story behind the Milliken area code, but we won't go into that.
I mean,
Um, uh, I'm a Ben fan. I'm a Ben fan. I really like Ben. Ben is so smart. He's
yes.
so savvy about what he does. I could never do what he does. He's next level. But we love Bass After Dark, and it's a little different, and we try not to cover the same ground as everybody else. Partly out of respect for people like Dave Erkey, people like Matt Pangrack on Bass Talk Live, people like the other folks who are doing shows, the Pat Renwicks at Straycasts, the Bailey Agabritz on the Serious Angler stuff. We didn't want to Pete Glusick and Bass U. We didn't want to try to get in anybody else's lane,
Yeah.
and because we have respect for those people, and also we thought we got to find a way to be different, or we're not going to have any chance of distinguishing ourselves and being different and finding an audience.
Yep. So, okay, we're gonna get into this Bass After Dark thing for just a little bit longer. I grew up. It's earlier in my years as a child, so I can't remember the name of the show. But there used to be a show we could watch where this guy would come on the TV, the screen would open, and there'd be a man in like a nice smoking jacket, and he would read a book. And he would be like, and today on this, journey, we're gonna do this. And I'm like, is he hitting that vibe right now? Because I'm having like major child flashbacks right now. Like this is fully awesome.
I'm not even familiar with that, so I know we were not trying to tap into that.
Okay, I will send it to you. I will find it on the internet because it's probably lives there somewhere. But it's like a reading hour where a man would read a story and then they would, have the televised story of whatever he was reading. But that was the whole thing. And then at the end, he would close the book, and it was just like it was epic. So I
That
assume
sounds very cool. No, what I was trying to do when Bass After Dark was a thought I had, and it was conceived as another opportunity for me to work with Nathan and an opportunity to work for the first time with Brian. And because I admired everything Brian had done on Ike Live, but I didn't want to do an Ike Live, try a thing. So I said, how do I get both these guys on board? And I thought, I want to tap into that late night TV vibe, that
yes,
Johnny Carson vibe, David Letterman vibe. And how did I do that? I also want it to feel more open. Well, and on those shows, you got the panel sitting in the chairs next to the desk. And so I don't want quite that. I want a real conversation among the 2 or 3 or 4 people who have the most to contribute to that topic. So originally, here's I don't even think Brian talked about this when he was on your show a year or so ago, but originally the plan was I would be wearing a suit and tie at the beginning, and I would come through a curtain and deliver a monologue, a comedy monologue,
yes.
and then I would throw it to Brian, and I would change out into more normal clothes, and I'd be sitting down, and we'd get the show rolling. But we realized that's multiple cameras, that's a lot of hassle, that's way more tech than I can do. So I said, I want to get this vibe. I said, what if I wear a smoking jacket? And we're a democracy at Bass After Dark. Me,
Mm.
Nathan, and Brian, we vote on things, and it doesn't always go the way any one of us wants it to go. They voted that I should wear a smoking jacket and ascot, and I voted no, but they voted that I should, so I do. I wear a smoking jacket and ascot because they said so. So I'm trying to tap into that Hugh Hefner, very casual, very relaxed vibe. And we got a Letterman style top 10 that does very well for us in social
Yes.
media. We've got bad comments, whereas other shows try to shout down the people who criticize them. We'll give you a prize.
Yes. Which I think is so genius.
Um,
Oh, I
and
mean,
we
it
have
keeps it light. It keeps people engaged. Like that's super. No one wants to sit there and just listen to facts. Like they want to be engaged, And yes,
and now we have the technology to poll the audience during the show, which is fun. Um, we want to engage with these folks. We love these people. We've had a chance to meet some of these folks and really have enjoyed them, and have become friends with some of them, and that's been very rewarding. Um, but yeah, we tried to strike that kind of vibe, and we sandwich my monologue at the beginning, which is
Mhm.
usually either about the topic we're going to discuss that night or something else that's on my mind, and then we sandwich it at the end with Brian the Carpenter's dark thoughts. So there's a
Yes.
monologue on either end, and in the middle we sandwich our guests and our interview and our top 10 and our bad comments. And we're always thinking about other elements to add, but honestly, since our show is frequently 3 hours now, we're hesitant.
Hey, dude, I know you're not a fan of the long. You're very vocal about being not a fan of the longer episodes, but
Yeah.
from a consumer standpoint, like the long episode is clutch because you have a format that no one has thought of, or at least some people have thought of, but not continued to execute, which I always thought was absolutely the first time I heard the show. I called a couple buddies who do podcasts. I'm like, these dudes are genius. Yeah, I've had a couple like roundtables and stuff like that, but literally you're not having an interview like a one-on-one like we're doing now or a two-on-one or just you two talking. You are having a conversation and you are getting full all aspects from every direction, so you have multiple point of views coming into this conversation, which is the most genuine way to come to either a conclusion or to just have the conversation that nobody's having. I love it. I think it's absolutely genius. Just
I
give me your
Well,
flowers. It was
the
amazing.
the genius on Bass After Dark, the geniuses are Nathan Benson and Brian the Carpenter, and they do such a great job at their parts. I'm privileged to sit there and do a monologue and all that stuff. And our guests are so critical in making for a good show.
Yes.
And where that comes in is, Brian and I know so many people in the industry, and that's the chore of it all. Is it's not necessarily hard to identify three great potential guests, but it's massively hard to book them all at the same time
Yes.
because our show is live.
Yes.
And we're asking people to dedicate 3 hours of their evening
Mhm.
before school, before work, sometimes before a tournament starts. Drew Gill has done our show 3 times, and each time, either the first day of the tournament was the next day, or he was in the middle of the tournament. Each time he has stayed on until midnight or later, and each time he has either won the tournament or tied for first place and lost a tiebreaker. So I'm trying to convince Drew that it's just good luck to do Bass After Dark.
So yes, for him it is. Now I will say I'm a fan of a lot of old school anglers. I just am.
Yeah.
When I say old
Yeah.
school, it's old school for my generation, and my generation is the children coming up now, just because I'm so new to fishing.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'm a huge Christie, G Man, Hank Cherry fan. Like I'm just like those are like that's my get down. But what I'm saying, the term phenom is not used very much anymore, and I feel like Drew Gill is one of them.
I think he's if he's not, he's one of the two or three best anglers in the world right now, and that's a level that few people ever get to reach in the tournament world. A guy might win a tournament and then be the best for those 3 or 4 days, but Drew Gill is one of the best anglers on the planet. Yes, he is a master of forward-facing sonar. So what? It's a tool. It's legal. He's wearing them out. He is a genius. Plus, he's just a genius. The guy is so bright. Um,
Talk
talk
about
about
critical
critical
thinking.
thinking. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Drew Gill is a critical thinker. I'm a huge Drew Gill fan. It's I I'm I'll watch Drew Gill fish all day. Now, am I a fan of forward facing sonar? No, but that doesn't mean I'm not a Drew Gill fan. Huge Drew Gill fan. And yeah, but Bass After Dark is a lot of work, and I enjoy it. I can't imagine doing it with other people than Nathan and Brian. Appreciate all the contributions they make to it, and appreciate them. Like I said, it was conceived as a concept to get those two guys to work with me.
Yep. So you are also involved with a tournament circuit of MPFL. What's your involvement
Yes.
necessarily with them?
Well, my title is communications manager, and I also I write press releases. I write most of the content on the website for both the NPFL website, which is the National Professional Fishing League.com, and for the NPFL Legion site, which is the new membership organization. Uh, it's the best group of people I've ever worked with in bass fishing.
Really?
It's hands
That
down.
says a lot, dude. That says a lot because you've worked with a lot of people.
I I I might be the only guy who's ever been, paid by BASS, FLW, MLF, and PFL. I might be the only guy who's worked with all of them. And hands down, this is the best group of people. Um, it's been really rewarding to work with those folks because they have a tremendous amount of integrity.
Hmm.
They work so hard. It's a skeleton crew of people doing a Herculean task. And in the last couple of years, they've really stepped up their production of live content during events, and they've really stepped up their content creation, their web presence, and their media presence.
Mhm.
And it's been fun to have been a part of a lot of that. I do 3 podcasts preceding each event that we call Roundtable. As a matter of fact, I'll be recording part of a roundtable later today. So I'll be spending much of my day, Dave Erkey with headphones on, just like this. And but yeah, it's really rewarding. I admire these people. I have such respect for the people I work with. I'm
Dude,
lucky. Hasn't
that's
always been that way,
yeah.
And I'm not singling out any league. I'm just saying that if you've worked for a number of different groups or organizations or companies or just people through the years, you've certainly had some that you didn't think lived up to the standard you'd like them to live up to, and that is not the case with the NPFL. These guys do things the right way.
That's awesome. That dude, I love that for you. Like I am that genuinely makes me happy for you because honestly, I
Thank you.
feel like you deserve it at this point. Like I feel like you just deserve the happiness. Like you've been through the trenches with everybody for so long to actually find a place where you're like, this is awesome. Like I'm so
I
happy.
feel
So
I now feel like a wet paper bag dragged through the trenches, Dave. But but I mean, do I deserve anything as good as the NPFL? I don't know. I'd like to think that I don't think about things that way. I don't think about what do I deserve. I think about, what can I do? How can I make a positive impact? And hopefully, I'm making a positive impact with the NPFL. I'm trying. I work hard at it. Uh, but yeah, well, thank you for the kind words.
and another thing you said it right on the head and that's I feel like that is the mentality that has been absolutely lost in the past 20 years is not what do I deserve, but how can I make a positive impact on the situation I'm at? Like,
Yeah, to make it more mercenary, how can I add value to this situation, whether it
abs-
be a work situation or a different social personal situation.
Absolutely. Yeah, dude. Thank you for saying that. Like, that's damn near my mantra is how can I make this better? You know,
Yeah.
or and not that it's bad, but if I'm going to show up to the table, I'm bringing a plate of food for everybody to have. How can I do this? You know, how can I offer my services? You know, like what can I do? I'm never showing up to a party empty handed. You know what I'm saying?
That's a wonderful ethic. And I would say that on the flip side, and a lot of the viewers and listeners here have experienced this too. It's also critically important that the people you're working with or for understand what role you can fill.
Yes.
Um, I worked for somebody not too terribly many years ago who wanted me to learn all the tech aspects of something.
Mm,
And I finally had to go to the guy and say, dude, I'm I'm your subject matter guy. I'm not your tech guy. It's taking me a day to do something that a tech person could do in 15 minutes.
mm-hmm,
And what I
mm-hmm,
was really saying to him was, you're a moron. You don't understand what you have in terms of tools to play with.
mm-hmm.
And since you don't understand, I'm going to explain to you because you have the critical thinking skills of a soap dish.
Yeah. Hey, dude, not everybody can delegate. That's just
And sometimes, sometimes it's a matter of not everybody being able to delegate. And on other occasions, it's a situation where the
they're
guy
just
is
stupid.
is delegating because he wants to put you down, because he wants to hold
Ah.
you in a place. I work for an organization we've mentioned on the show already. That my attitude there was I wasn't thrilled with being there at some point in my time, my tenure there. And I thought, well, I'm just going to outlast the jackasses. Well, what I underestimated was their ability to hire new jackasses. And this was a jackass they hired and who was my boss. And he couldn't tell you which end of a bass hit the lure. He would have had no idea. But he was suddenly in charge of the web. And nice guy, but just an absolute idiot. Mental agility of a doorstop. And a
That
lot of
is
people will know who I'm
construction.
talking about.
That is
So,
construction 101. I don't know exactly
is
who
it?
you're talking about, but that's construction 101, especially when you work for a large company. Like you are never going to outlast the kids that they're going to hire straight out of college that know more than you, but have never banged a nail in their life. So yeah, it's just,
Frustrating. Frustrating.
yeah, you just learn to roll with the punches until you can sum up enough money to start your own company. So kind of
Well,
where it
I
goes.
lack the resources to start a new major tournament organization,
Well, no, but
and
you're
I'm
working with some of the
excited.
best in the business right now. So
I'm working with the best in the business right now at the NPFL. I hope folks will give the NPFL a shot. The NPFL's big differentiator, of course, at least as the public sees it, is that the NPFL does not allow forward-facing sonar.
but the talent in the MPFL, like that's the lost vision is the
Oh,
talent in the MPFL. I'm not talking take the screens away. Sure, that's talent, whatever. I don't care. Screens, no screens. That's not the deal. Look at the names. Look at the lineup for the MPFL this year. It is absolutely phenomenal. I'm like, dude, I'm into this right now.
yeah. We're talking about Patrick Walters, Hank Cherry, Jared Lintner, Zach Burge, Luke Clausen, Greg Vinson, Jared Lintner. Did I mention Lintner? Greg Hackney, Scott Canterbury. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on and on, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a lot of massive names. But I think, and Rick Clunn coming to the next tournament. Rick has missed the first two events of the NPFL season with a medical exemption, but he's going to be joining the field in the month of May.
A
So
man
I
who
think the NPFL has the best name recognition among its field of any of the leagues, and I don't think it's that close.
honestly, when you guys started talking about the MPFL, I was like, MPFL, all right, I've heard this name before. Luke Duncan or something was talking about it. I don't
Luke
remember.
Duncan and Fat Cat Newton are live announcers. They do I think they do the best job of all because
Yeah.
not only do they add insight and humor and information, but they also know when to just shut it and let the anglers speak for themselves and let the action speak for itself. They don't talk over it. They're not competing for mic time like you see other places.
Right. And I love it. I just I That's all I barely knew of it because it was always just something I think it was spoken about in multiple podcasts like BTL and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever, new tournament, whatever. I'm here fishing this pond on my feet, so there's no way I'm going to a tournament anytime soon, you know? And so it's just kind of like one of those way out there things. And then you were talking about it on Bass After Dark, so I just looked it up. I was like, well, let me see what's going on here. And the list of names, I'm like, dude, I like watching him. I like watching him. I like watching him. I'm like, why is this not more publicized? So I'm glad that they're stepping up their game this year, getting more media presence, like trying to draw, not trying to draw in, but showing what they have, the value that they have to offer the bass fishing as a whole. Like media is everything these days. Like I hate to say it, but it really is. You know, I mean, media's always been everything. Like you said, it started with 4 magazines and we're here now, like where we're literally talking on what would be considered radio. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
the media, and I joked earlier and said, the brain is the most important organ in the body. According to the brain, well,
Yep.
media, in my opinion, is the most important thing in tournament bass fishing. Says the media guy,
Yeah. So
but if you don't appeal to the audience, if you don't have something that appeals to the audience, you're not gonna find sponsors. You're not gonna draw anglers who have sponsors, and you're not gonna get your message out there. So you can't survive without it. And for the first 3 or 4 years of the NPFL, they were focusing on delivering the best tournament they could, and their emphasis was not on the media element as much. And they flipped the switch a couple of years ago. The ownership group saw things in a different way. And the ownership group, by the way, Mike and Kathy Como, Brad and Michelle Fuller, Big Al McCulloch, Paul Benson, great friend of mine, Pablo.
I think he's so interesting. I'm sorry.
There's a guy you should have on the show.
I want to. I'm getting the balls to email him soon.
I'm pestering Paul to start his own show. But anyway, they said, okay, we're going to change our approach a little bit, put more emphasis on this, and they're now delivering what I think is a fabulous product.
Yes, absolutely. No, they're absolutely crushing it. Like I am a huge like NPFL fan. You did the poll. I was an NPFL voter. All right. They just mask off. I know you guys can see it, but mask off. I was like, yeah, I'm watching this. This is my get down for sure.
Me too. I'm a fan of all the leagues. I have friends at all the leagues, but the broadcast I enjoy by far the most is the NPFL, and that's just because that's a Luke and Fat Cat thing, and it's also a fact that I know all the NPFL anglers at this point, NPFL anglers at this point. I still know most of the BASS guys. I still know almost all of the MLF guys, and I enjoy all of it. But I would make time for the NPFL.
And for all you non-bass fishing listeners that I have, Mom, I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna put this in an exact, a perfect example. A man who had a 40-year career tournament run, retired, then came out of retirement to jump in the NPFL. Hats off.
Yeah, Rick Clunn. Yeah, Rick.
Yes.
Rick had a 50-year professional tournament career.
Oh, 50. I was wrong, Mom.
He's coming out of retirement to fish the NPFL. But I should point out, Rick is not opposed to forward-facing sonar. He really enjoys the technology and what it teaches.
Mhm.
Rick is just a competitor, I guess is maybe the best way to put it. Rick is a competitor. It's his lifeblood. He stepped away from BASS and the Elite Series, but the competitor in him will not give up. So
Yeah.
the NPFL is a shorter schedule, a little less travel. The level of angler care on the NPFL is next level. At the NPFL, staff launches your boat, parks your rig, comes and gets you later today. We back the trailer back in, pull you out of the water at the end of the day. So it's a little. The NPFL does a lot of heavy lifting, so the anglers don't have to do as much. You got a flat tire, NPFL is going to take care of it while you're on the water fishing.
Yep. Now so I'm going to paraphrase this, and sorry for the simpleton language. You have been in your entire since a childhood, a student of the game, right?
Yes, sir.
You have just
Yeah.
have always been a student, and I feel like some of the best teachers never lose the mentality of remaining teachable. Do you see something in bass fishing that you don't necessarily agree with, but you are learning to respect now?
Wow, what a great question. I admire a lot of things of the technology of forward-facing sonar. I admire a lot of what it's teaching us about bass behavior. There's a population of fish out there that we never knew about before, and we might never have known about without this technology. That said, I believe it should be banned for sport fishing, because I think it's a violation of the concept of what the hunting community calls fair chase.
Right.
And hunting and fair chase has been around for 150 years. It was conceived of by a group of hunters, including Theodore Roosevelt, who realized and understood and kind of encoded rules that say things like, you can't kill an animal behind a high fence that's trapped. You can't kill an animal that's tied to a tree. You can't drug an animal before you kill it. You can't do these various things that are against the concept of sport hunting. Well, we've never codified a similar set of rules for fishing. We never have. What we do instead is we say you can only keep 5. They got to be 12 inches or longer. The season starts on March 1st. We've done that
Mm-hmm.
as a means of controlling population and harvest, but we've never sat down and said, we should have sport fishing rules that have to do with the sport of it. And I think we need them. And one of the rules in the rules of fair chase for hunting is you cannot use technology to create an unfair advantage. That's pretty loose.
Yep.
But that's been around for a long time, that rule. And they've been added to that rule through the years. And one of their most recent additions was you cannot use a drone to hunt and stay within the rules of fair chase. And these rules of fair chase are in the regulations of every state in the US. Your hunting regulations in California, mine in Florida, anywhere else you want to name, those rules of fair chase are state regs now,
Yep.
basically. And we still don't have anything like that in fishing. So fair chase for hunting says can't create an unfair advantage with technology. Drones are an unfair advantage in technology. Well, what is forward-facing sonar but an underwater horizontal drone? We already have the technology that you can follow that fish, you can spot that fish out in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And very soon, perhaps at ICAST this year, one or more of the major electronics companies, I'm talking, of course, about Humminbird, Lowrance, and Garmin, one or more of those companies will likely introduce a new feature so that you can not only see that fish, but you can lock in on an individual fish and keep your boat 40, 50, 60 feet back and follow that fish until you get tired, your batteries die, or you catch it.
They had target lock. I think Humminbird came out with target lock a while ago, but
Yeah,
that's for like brush piles.
An inanimate object.
Yes.
Like
yeah.
a brush pile, a stump, something like that.
Yeah.
But hey, look how close is that to what I'm talking about? It's that far away.
We're closer. I understand technology enough because I get to today I get to rub elbows with some people that are very smart in technology, and to say that just following a single fish is the limit of the technology is no, because all you have to do is type in a program and AI recognizes sonar readings better than a human ever could. And what'll end up happening is you'll be like, hey, find me 10-pound bass, and this is what it looks like on a sonar feed. And then it will go out and it will find you all the 10-pound. And it will say, hey, this one's kind of in a mellow mood. It's not really trying to eat right now. That's more of a reaction bite if you want to get that one. But these ones over here, they've just left their cover and they're ready to eat. Like, that's coming. That's coming.
It is coming.
And it's weird.
And I don't like it. But a lot of people will tell you that it's impacting fish populations. Well, it's not impacting bass populations. It's not impacting bass populations at all. because we practice catch and release in the bass world. And the
Too much.
people who are most likely to, yeah, we practice it too much. We should be
Mhm.
harvesting more of these fish. But the people who are most likely to practice catch and release are the ones who have the most expensive equipment. So these forward-facing sonar people, they're probably not harvesting anything at all. But where it is impacting populations of fish is in the crappie world, the muskie world, the spoonbill world, the sturgeon world,
Mm.
stuff like that. I've got a guy I know in the muskie world where he's a guide. He'd be having a great week if he could put his clients on a couple of muskies a week. Now he has to catch 10 a day.
Oh,
And catching a muskie, which, again, Dave, you're 5 years into the bass world. I was reading about muskie when I was living in Miami just because I thought, wow, what a cool fish this must be.
yeah.
Well, the muskie for decades, for 100 years, was called the fish of 10,000 casts.
Yes.
Well, the reason it's the fish of 10,000 casts is because there's like one muskie for every 150 surface acres of water. With forward-facing sonar, you can go through an area, scan it, spot the muskie, and now instead of being the fish of 10,000 casts, it's a fish of one cast.
Yep.
They're hyper aggressive. You
Yep.
put one lure in front of it, they're going to grab it. And some of those fish are going to fight to the bitter end and die.
Most of them
And
do. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
so it's going to have a brutal impact on a lot of other populations. And so I never dreamed I would be against technology in sport fishing, but I am against forward-facing sonar. I think it goes too far,
okay.
and I think it's going to have an adverse impact on certain populations, and I think it's in violation of what I call fair chase.
Okay. Is there anything that you have found newer in fishing that you're like, I can respect that? Okay.
One of the things I love about our sport, and you're in this world very heavily, is the kayak stuff. Um, Bass fishing to me is one of the most egalitarian sports you can have. If you've got a $150,000 bass boat and $50,000 worth of electronics on your boat, you can go out and enjoy bass fishing. If you've got a cane pole or a tinker rod and you go down to the local creek, you can enjoy bass fishing. You can spend $1 million, you can spend $20, and you can do it. I love that about it. I love that kayaks have become more prevalent and more common. I love that aluminum boats seem to be stepping up. I'm seeing more aluminum boats on the tournament circuit. They're a practical, less expensive way to get on the water. So I love it that people are finding new ways to enjoy the sport. I wish that we were doing a better job of growing the sport because we're not.
Yeah. Yeah. I can agree with that. I can agree that we're not necessarily growing the sport. We're definitely diversifying it. I see that a lot, but I don't necessarily see growth. Like you're saying, like kayaks is an up and coming thing, but you can literally $20 Kmart special go fish and catch a bass just as much as you can spend 200 grand to go catch a bass. It's
Yeah.
one or the other. Yes, I don't. But what do you think the biggest point is missing in creating growth of the sport?
Ah, we're focusing on the wrong audience. Look at all the programs you see for bass fishing out there. They're high school and college. That's too late.
Yeah.
You're a rare exception because 86% of the people who buy a fishing license this year, give or take, 86% of the people who buy a fishing license this year will have started fishing before they were 12 years old. These high school and college programs are appealing to people who are already in the game.
Yeah.
And they're appealing to people who are only interested in tournament fishing. And they're appealing to people, or they're attracting people who are using mom and dad's money to buy a nice bass boat. And they're being sold a bill of goods by the tournament organizations. Oh, you're going to be the next Kevin Van Dam. This is your platform to greatness and riches. Well, forward-facing sonar has made some of that come true, but before that, it was just a bill of goods. And one day
Mhm.
soon, it will be just a bill of goods again. But we need to focus on younger people, um, and we need to focus on getting families fishing. Because I don't know about you, but I fish because I fish. I got started in fishing because my grandfather fished, and he wanted to take his first grandkid fishing, and I got hooked. None of the other grandkids got hooked, but me. Um, and I wish we would do that. That's where we're kind of misdirected. There's a great organization out there called Fishing's Future, headed up by a couple of friends of mine, Tom Lang and Shane Wilson. Check out fishingsfuture.org. They're doing things the right way. In my opinion, they're the only organization in America that's actually growing the sport. Everybody else is lip service.
I'm definitely looking into that when we get out here, because I got an 11-year-old who's down. He can skip a worm better than me, and
That's awesome.
yeah, I hate to say that, but he does. He's so good at it. He did it on his third try. I was like, what?
Oh my God.
And then he started. He has a button rod, but he actually was the one that was like, Dad, it's not about flicking it out there. It's about when your rod bends backwards, you want more bend backwards. I said, oh, he's all, you don't have to throw it hard, just bend backwards. He taught me. I was showing him how to do it, and then he turned around and taught me, and I was like, all right, I know nothing. So anyway, so
That's
he can
cool.
skip a worm like a beast. But I got a 3-year-old and I got a newborn. Well, he's 2 months. He was 2 months old yesterday.
2 months.
Yeah,
That's
you met him. He
fantastic.
came on your show.
Congratulations.
I was just sending
That's
Brian
right.
a photo for fun, and
That's
somehow
right.
it ended
You
up
put
on
him
the
on the
show, and
show.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Warning to everyone out there: you send us something, we're probably going to put it on the show.
Yeah. But yeah, so Ezra, he's 2 months, and I have a feeling that I'm gonna give it all to him. Like, hey, come on, let's go. But I learned to put him on fish versus we're gonna go bass fishing. Just here, try these bluegill out, enjoy. Here's some worms, go have fun. And I feel like that's the thing is today and age, because everything's so instantaneous, the instant gratification, kids have lost the patience or the learning. Like, no one's bored anymore. You remember when you were bored growing up? Like, I'm bored, I'm gonna go outside. No one's bored anymore because the attention is so minimum, and their screens are such a maximum that you can't get a kid out there and just be like, all right, we're gonna wait here for a couple hours until these fish start biting. You have to put them on bluegill fast. So
Yeah. To your point, bluegill is the gateway drug.
bluegill is the weed of fishing.
There you go. Bluegill is the gateway drug, and if you put a kid on a bluegill, that's a great way to start. And but yeah, it's a tough sport. I think that if I were born 2 months ago, or if I had born 20 years ago, maybe I wouldn't be into bass fishing, because I think about what it's like to walk into a tackle shop now. Imagine walking into, and of course, this might have been your experience. You had your mother-in-law, I think you said, give you your first rod and reel,
Yeah.
and but imagine if your first experience to try to get into the game is to walk into a Bass Pro Shops. That's intimidating. I've often said they need to put a Sherpa at the door. I would wear a Sherpa hat, and I would say to the person, what are you interested in? What do you want to catch? Where do you plan on fishing? How much have you got to spend? We'll get you set up. No matter what that is, we'll get you set up.
Yeah.
And because if that had been my experience at 14, 15, and I started bass fishing, or I started fishing when I was 5,
Mhm.
I would have turned around and found another sport. It would have been too much, because my dad didn't fish. My dad, if he made 2 casts and didn't catch something, they weren't biting. It was time to head home. But he indulged me, and he was a great dad and very supportive. But anyway, it's an intimidating uphill battle.
Hey, here's an experience I had as a
Yeah.
grown adult. I showed up to a local tackle shop, and I had 2 spinning rods to my name. No, I did not bring them in there because I just didn't need to. I was like, hey, I'm looking to catch some big bass. I want to try and catch some bigger fish. I like these bass fish because, first bass I caught, I didn't even know what it was. But the internet told me, because I was like, I caught this cool fish, and I'm like grabbing it by its neck, like choking it out. And everyone's like, that's a bass. I was like, what is this? And they're like, it's a bass. I'm like, this was the best fight I've ever had. Anyways, so I go in there, I'm trying to catch bigger fish. Oh, okay, cool. And they put a Huddleston in my hand.
A 12-inch Huddleston Deluxe or 10-inch Huddleston Deluxe or whatever.
I'm like, okay, I throw this, and they're like, yeah.
Whoa.
And I went home and I tied it on my spinning rod and I snapped it. I snapped the line like clear off. Like that thing went, and I'm fishing a creek, Ken. It's only like 3 or 4 feet. I did not know that I need to explain the scenario or anything. There was no direction. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't know that I needed to explain everything. I just wanted to catch a bigger bass because I caught one and I want to catch a bigger one. They gave me a Huddleston. I chucked that thing, and this creek is loaded with bushes. That thing's gone. It's lives somewhere in a
Yeah,
homeless encampment at
there
this
goes
point.
$50.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, you know, I didn't know any better. You know, it took time. It took a lot of research. It took Bass University. It took YouTube University. It took all these different things to try and figure out exactly how to do this right. And I wish that there was more, like you said, like a Sherpa or somebody that could like sit there and walk and talk and explain it to you. So go ahead.
And that's an untapped area in my opinion. Maybe somebody's doing it and I just haven't found them. But where's the beginning? Where are the beginner courses on bass fishing? Everybody wants to act like they're advanced. All these YouTube creators want to act like they're advanced in their stuff, and most of them are pretty pedestrian and suck.
Right.
And I'm spoiled because if I want to learn how to throw a chatterbait, I happen to know Brett Height,
Yep.
and Andy Montgomery and Brian Thrift. So I can go to the very best at that. If I want to learn
Mhm.
how to throw a jig, I know Edwin Evers and Denny Brower and Greg Hackney and Bill Lowen. So I go to the very best at that. So
Yes.
when somebody named Bob Smith has his YouTube channel and he's going to tell me how to throw a jig, I'm going to laugh and pick up the phone and call somebody I know.
Yep.
But I'm crazy lucky in that regard. But it's so hard to find out who the good teachers are. But I don't see the beginning teachers out there, the guys who are teaching the ABCs of it all, and
You
that's a
know who
shame.
does an excellent job?
Who's that?
Andrew Hayes with Tackle Talk. When I found Tackle Talk, I learned the difference between rods. I didn't know that there was difference. You know, like he helped explain everything.
I
And
think Andrew's great. I think Andrew's a genius. I didn't. And maybe he's going. Maybe he's starting at the ground level for people, and I just didn't realize it. That must be the situation because I think there's not enough ground level stuff.
it's a backlog thing. You have to start at the beginning. Like you have to go
Yeah.
back to the beginning podcast and start there. And you literally can grow as an angler as you listen to the channel. I got into my buddy showed Jigs and Bigs, another podcast, and they actually expressed something. I don't know if you're aware of. They have a news article every week, and my buddy Bobby and Joe Brown, they run this show, and it goes, they found in Ontario fish that were actually have a high dosage of narcotics into them. They're talking about don't flush your drugs, and it's a full news article. It is not fake. I can link you the podcast at the minute mark, and you can listen to it if you'd like.
Please
It's
do.
very crazy. I mean, it's
That
nuts.
is crazy. I
Yeah,
try to stay at least a little bit aware of all that's going on in the biology world, but was not aware of that one.
it's interesting, and then they're like, what would happen if what would you do if you took a sample of the crawdads in the Delaware? Like it went full. It was awesome. I
Wow.
mean, that show is a really fun show. If you like Howard Stern style shows, like Bobby does a great job with that show. So, okay.
I've listened to that show before, and um, going back to a point you were making earlier
Mm,
about, oh, you're asking me about how I got into it, how I stayed interested and stuff like that. And
yeah.
one of the things I've always tried to do and been even more aware of lately is I try hard to put myself in the right rooms, you know? And by that I mean maybe it's going to the ASA summit every year, which I've done for many years. Maybe it's going to the Black Bass Symposium in San Antonio last year. Maybe it's being involved with the tournament organizations. Um, but I try real hard to put myself in the right rooms. And what I've learned, what you learn really quickly, Dave, is that the people you see in this room over here, they ain't at this next one, and they're not at the one in the same. And there's a different group in this room over here, and and these events happen months apart, organized by different organizations. And by and large, the people in Group A are not even aware that there's a Group B and a Group C, and it's really limiting them. And
Huh.
and I take pride in trying to put myself in the right rooms and to meet and know the right people.
Dude, no, I love that. That shows your devotion to your passion. Like, okay, if I had the money, I would do it all. I don't have the money, so I can't travel to all the things. Um, but I do try and listen to everybody. I try and get as much influence as possible. And like you said, it's very diluted down because there's so many factions and facets of media and fishing these days. But what I try and do is I try and find the ones not that match necessarily what I think, but the ones that challenge what I think. And that's where I try and because I don't know everything, dude. I'm not even that smart,
Good
you
for
know?
you to do that, though. I mean, that's kind of what Bass After Dark is built on. There's an issue, we ask the question, we got the pro guy, we try to get the anti guy, we try to get somebody in the middle, or we try to get the manufacturer and the Bass Pro and the fishing guide to show the different perspectives. Um, and when I say I try to put myself in the right rooms and I try to bring in the best guests and all that, I don't think I do a very good job. But part of the reason I don't do a very good job is well, there's budget, but there's also time. And I have the same amount of time as everybody else. I got 24 hours in a day, and unlike Dave Urke, I sleep occasionally.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I wish there were more hours in the day. I wish I could live forever. And I just we all got to balance work and other things, and it's a challenge. But I wish I could do a better job of all that.
Yo, dude, I think you're doing a phenomenal job. I feel like, okay, Ken, you have the perspective of all this information and the right people and the right places and the right things. I don't. Most of the listeners of Bass After Dark don't either. So when you bring on these guests, we're hearing perspectives and point of views that may not necessarily you feel that are the best ones, but we don't know any different, and we feel it's the best ones. So I think you're doing a bang up job.
Well, I appreciate
All
that.
right,
Um, I guess
it's
one
a
of the
point of perspective.
challenges of knowing a lot of people in the industry is also knowing that I can only pick three of them for a show because the platform doesn't we're all remote. So the
Yes.
platform doesn't handle more than that super well. And there are limitations. And there's also uh, so many basketballs in the game. I, I refer to my job on Bass After Dark as I'm the point guard. I'm distributing the ball.
Yep.
I'm going to throw it over here to Dave Urke. I'm going to throw it over here to Brian the Carpenter. I'm going to throw it over here to this expert on the show about this topic. And I try to keep the ball moving. I try to keep everybody involved in the conversation. But, it's not always that all the perspectives are presented equally.
Yep. Well, Ken, it has been over 2.5 hours and you have been sitting with me, dude. I so
I've
appreciate it.
enjoyed it.
I do have a question round.
Uh-oh.
So we're going to have to do a part 2 of Ken Duke down the line for the rest of, I would love to have you on again for
Wow,
sure.
it's kind. Dave, it's been an honor. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for having me on The Whole Angler.
Dude, no, we're going to go through the question round. You ain't getting away that easy. I'm sorry.
Right.
These are the
So
questions.
if I click the red button, I'm
Yeah. These are the questions that everybody has to answer, including Brian had to answer them too. So
all right.
we're going to jump into this, dude. We're going to quote unquote land this plane, as my friend Darren would say.
I hear you.
Who's your favorite angler and why?
My grandfather. He did it for all the right reasons. He just loved fishing. He worked for the Alabama Gas Company for many years, and he carried his fly rod and tackle box with him. And when he passed over a creek, he had a set of dirty jeans. He would hop in that creek and fish. He never caught a bass in his life that weighed more than 3 pounds, but he did everything he could to make sure that I would have the opportunity to experience fishing.
That's awesome. All right. Who's your favorite fishing personality and why?
These are terrible questions, Dave.
I know. I'm not a good interviewer. I apologize.
No, you're a great interviewer. The problem is, how do I pick one? I got so many. My favorite fishing personality.
Eventually, I'm going to do a Mount Rushmore question, but it's hard because you name 4, you leave 4 off,
I got 4 easy. No problem.
All right, hit it. Hit it with the 4.
Okay.
We'll do the 4.
Can I do? Okay.
This is a new one. Mount
the
Rushmore.
4 people who should be on the Mount Rushmore of bass fishing. I'll go chronologically. The first is James A. Henshaw, the guy who wrote the first 2 books about bass fishing, the guy who was the first to raise bass in captivity, the guy who designed the seminal rod, of the 19th century, and one of the early great writers, one of the early great minds of the sport. He's first on the Mount
Inch for
Rushmore
inch
of
and
bass
pound for
fishing.
pound.
Inch for inch and pound for pound, the gamest fish that swims.
Yep.
So Henshaw is the first image on Mount Bassmore. The second image on Mount Bassmore belongs to Jason Lucas. Jason Lucas was the fishing editor of Sportsfield magazine from 1948 to 1968. He was the first guy to be put in that job, fishing editor of one of the big three magazines, who was a bass guy. He was the PR man and the marketing force that helped make bass fishing the number one fishing sport in America. Because before that, the trout was king. The
Mhm.
rainbow, the brown,
Yeah.
the brook trout, they were king. Lucas did a lot to change that. Number three on the Mount Bassmore is Ray Scott. Ray Scott saw an opportunity in 1968 when he created BASS and held the first modern bass tournament actually in 67. But without there's almost no aspect of the sport of bass fishing that you can point to, and Ray Scott did not significantly impact that. And that's why so many of the young anglers who fish BASS who don't know who Ray Scott is should be shot. Number four on the Mount Bassmore of that, and it would be easy to say, oh, it's Bill Dance, who I love dearly, or it's somebody like that. Without Ray Scott, Bill would not have had the platform to become the Bill Dance that we know.
Yes.
So I'm not going to put Bill Dance on there. Instead, I'm going to put Glenn Lau. Glenn Lau is the guy who made the movie Big Mouth.
Yes.
If you haven't seen the movie Big Mouth, you haven't seen the best film video of bass and bass fishing. He's the guy who showed us the world of the bass from an underwater perspective, and it still holds up today. There's some goofy stuff about it that makes it look aged, but the bass hasn't changed since Glenn Lau made this movie in 1975. It's narrated by Rod Serling, believe it or not, from the Twilight Zone.
What? That's
It's yeah, it's just a great effort. Parker Bauer did the script. Glenn did the cinematography. Rod Serling is the guy who narrates it. It's the best film ever made about bass fishing, and it's not close. So that's my four.
Oh, I'm checking that video out. I'm sorry. And listeners, by all means, stop the podcast right now and go check these out. I don't mind you losing the views or the listens. Like this is something that's way more, well, maybe not more important than Ken Duke, but definitely more important than myself. So
definitely more important than me. Definitely
okay.
More important. Let's go back to personality. I never met the guy. I never saw him on video. I've listened to some of his recordings. Jason Lucas would be a personality I would certainly want to learn more about, because although I've read a lot of his work and stuff like that, the guy was from England, came to the U.S., became a bass fisherman, and he was a
pike out there.
Crusty guy. Yeah, a lot of pike out there, but he was a crusty guy. He once said, and these are things you couldn't say today,
Yes.
but people would write in letters to the editor at Sports Afield, and one person wrote in one time and said, "Do you think I can turn my wife into a bass angler?" And Lucas replied, "I suppose you could teach her to paddle." And I guess you could get away with that in the 40s and 50s. But Lucas was an interesting man who had a great passion for bass fishing, was not very politically correct. And I certainly do not agree with that sentiment.
Times have changed, but like by all means, I don't monetize. So, but you can say what you want on here. So,
yeah. Again, if you don't understand the past, you have no chance of understanding the future or the present.
Yes, and you have no room for growth because you don't know where you're coming from.
Exactly.
So, all right. Anyway, all right. Spend a day with anyone. Who is it and what are you doing? Like Shrenko Achigan said he would like to smoke cigars with Nelson Mandela on the beach.
Okay, so I can pick a person who's no longer with us.
Time does not exist here. We're in the Twilight Zone.
It's toss up between James Henshaw, who I talked about a little earlier, or George Washington Perry, the guy who caught what is recognized as the world record now, Micropterus nigricans, the northern largemouth bass. I want to cross-examine George W.
Oh, but that would. That would be the most interesting. Oh, I say it every now and then on Bass After Dark. I'll just throw the comment in and be like, "Release the files." Release.
I've got a plan for that, Dave Erkey. And
Yes.
not to sideline the show here
No,
because I know
no,
you got to go.
no. You're good.
But I'm getting ready to start a new YouTube channel that I think I'm going to call, well, I won't even go into that, but it's going to be like 10-minute stories about bass fishing,
Okay,
things that I think people don't know. And
dude.
I'm gonna go into I'm gonna do the Perry Files on that show,
Let me
but
know
I'm
if you
gonna do
need.
them in 10-minute increments.
Let me know if you need some like cruddy little Photoshop faces on some bodies because I can do that pretty well. Just to let you know, so you can make some
I'm I'm
clickbait.
I'm learning the platform. I'm not good yet, but I'm learning.
Well, you just let me know. Reach out. I'm more than happy to do it for you. All right. Um, biggest fear.
Related to fishing or no?
Just your biggest fear. This is for you. This is for the angler. Fishing's in or out.
I have a fear, well, like a physical fear. I'm not good in tight spaces. Buried
Mhm.
alive is not a way I'd want to go. I
Yeah.
shouldn't tell people that. That's probably how I'll go now. Probably one of our listeners will now bury me alive. Um, I have a fear of. I'll, I don't have a lot of conventional fears. I'm obviously not afraid of. They say the biggest fear in America or phobia in America is speaking to an audience, and that doesn't that's never bothered me for some bizarre reason.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't want to embarrass the people I care about. I would never want to embarrass my wife. I did embarrass my wife once by winning a sushi eating contest at a restaurant.
Oh
Had to
yes.
eat this big thing of sushi, and then I think I embarrassed her a second time that night when I ordered more.
Oh.
Um,
I love it. Yeah, I mean, to relate, like my surface fears are small spaces and spiders. I did a couple years of HVAC. It was a nightmare. Um,
I'm with you, and I also don't like heights. I jokingly, I'm 5'11", but I jokingly sometimes say I don't even like being this tall.
yeah, no, heights don't bother me that much, but my true fear would be something happening to my children or my wife, and I'm not there to protect them.
Yeah,
You know?
that's that. I'm with you there too. My wife, if something happened to my wife, I would fear whoever did that to her, because I would get them.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
yeah, but yeah, those are ugly ones. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It's just genuine fear. I
yeah,
mean, everybody. Not to get too philosophical, but everybody in the world lives their life based around some sort of fear, whether it's fear of losing what you have, fear of not getting what you want, fear of alone, fear of death, fear of, the unknown. Those are all base root
yeah.
fears, and they grow as they turn into spiders in small spaces, whatever. But anyway, so we all have character defects, right? We have defects of character. Some of them are ugly, some of them are just nervous ticks, whatever it happens to be. How do you, or what could you say how have you turned one of your character defects into your character into a character asset?
Wow, I don't think I have. Um, my biggest character defect might be that I'm a procrastinator, but and I haven't. I battle that basically every day. I've never been able to turn that into an asset. What I will tell people, and it's partly true, is some aspect of procrastination is preparation. You know,
Yep.
um, I want to make sure something's full and complete. So maybe that's a way I've done a little bit. Because even though I'm not necessarily getting something done when I want to get it done, I'm often working at it. It's just not getting to the completion point that it needs to get to.
I, I can relate. I like to tell people that I like to leave my potential in suspense, you know?
I like to hide my talents, is what
Yeah.
I.
Hey, I'm that good. It's coming. You know, it's all good. So, okay. Have you ever been, have you ever been broke because of fishing? Like, has it ever been like tacos or Senkos for you?
It's never been like that, but when I was a kid, I mean, I would spend every dime I had on fishing, but I didn't consider myself broke because I was a kid,
Yeah.
and my parents were buying my food and
Yeah.
taking me to school, so I didn't have that to worry about. But if I had $5, I was gonna buy a fishing lure,
Yeah.
or
I
actually
mean,
back then I was gonna buy three fishing lures.
yeah. Yeah. Because the
It was
Vision
five
110 hadn't been
bucks.
invented yet, you know?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
there was no Lucky Craft to turn a jerkbait into $17.
Right? Oh, yeah. I these days I look at my tackle warehouse receipt or something. And I'm like, geez, I shouldn't have done that. I live though. We're all okay. Okay. What's your biggest struggle in life right now?
Ooh, mortality. I'm I'm aware, physical issues, my age. I'm aware that I won't live forever, and I have a lot of things that I want to do professionally and and pay the bills and try not to leave my wife in a bad situation. And so I've got stuff I should be getting rid of, and I've got work I want to do. And as days pass, I realize more and more that I'm not going to get to all of it. So I need to prioritize. So they say that, and I don't know if it's true, but I've heard many times people say that you don't realize your own mortality until your parents are gone. Well, my parents have been gone for a while, and I'm definitely feeling my own mortality. How's that for an upper fun thing to talk
No,
about?
no, I was just gonna say, no, I love it. My buddy Jeff came on. He's part of the aggressively average anglers. He came on a few weeks back, and he said, honestly, they made a map where you get 5,000 weeks. The average is 5,000 weeks, and you can tick off days. And I was like, oh, like that just hit me like a ton of bricks. I never thought about it in that way. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's. I mean, the math's for the average human, but point being is like, yeah, it's
Well, 5,000 weeks if you live to 100 or almost 100, because there's 52 weeks in a year, and
okay.
100 of those would be, yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, when you add up the extra two in there, yeah, I ain't gonna get 5,000 weeks.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just saying, like
Yeah,
that was the
that's
the
a good way
calendar
to
that
look at it,
they created.
though.
But yeah, it's like, dude, can you imagine just ticking off weeks of your life and be like, what did I do this last week? Because his whole thing was, I want to make sure that I can get everything done. You know, which
I'm not
is
going to get there, and
awesome.
that's ugly.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't like it.
the best thing we can do is take advantage of the most advantage of the time that we have. You know, like I make sure that I work a lot, but I make sure that my kids know that like I love them, you know,
You
and
got
I
your
will jump on
priorities
a
straight.
trampoline with water balloons. Like I'm not above it, you know? So,
That's wonderful that you have your priorities so well established. Mine are more nebulous and not as important as that.
okay. I'm going to tell you this. Don't ever say that because here's the thing. We live two different lives.
Hmm.
We have two completely different existences on this planet. So yours are just as important as mine. We just live in two different,
Well,
we live.
I don't believe that. I mean, that's nice of you to say, and that's a nice approach and attitude. But you got three kids
Yeah.
who, after you're gone, they'll still be making contributions on this planet.
Yeah.
I have no children. I have just my wife, who is the best human being I've ever known, and I have my work, which consumes me. I don't
Hmm.
have work-life balance. I have work, and I enjoy it for the most part. And I focus on the parts I like the most. But none of what I'm doing is nearly as important as what you're doing.
Okay. I won't disagree just because I love my children more than I love my job, but that's just what it is. No, that's not a backhanded comment by any means. I'm just saying, like, okay. So, but that leads me into this next question, which is really good. So, in skateboarding, we call them hammers. It's when some guy jumps off a building and lands it, or whatever. You know, giant rails, whatever. It's a hammer. So, what
Yeah.
would you consider your life hammer, your major life accomplishment, where you can have a healthy sense of pride and beat your chest and be like, I did that. I did that. I made it.
More tough questions, Dave Erkey. Well, one thing, and it's still something I'm working on, but I'm not a guy who's ever caught a 20-pound bass or an 11-pound, 15-ounce smallmouth. But I've caught a 12-pound largemouth, which is no big deal.
That's a big deal.
No, it's not really. I mean, if I focused on it, I think I could do better. But I have impacted the world record books a bit. In 2005, I got the IGFA to reestablish David Hayes as the world record smallmouth. Recently, working with some biologist friends of mine, I got Manabu Kurita recognized as the world record Florida bass, and because of work at the American Fishing Society, they've bifurcated what used to be just a largemouth, and they now have Micropterus salmoides, which used to be the largemouth bass. Now it's the Florida bass. Micropterus nigricans, which used to be the largemouth bass, is now the northern largemouth bass. And I helped to get Kurita established where he should be as the world record. Next, I'm going after George Perry. I think he's a fraud. I want to take him down. I think I can. I think I want to get that done before I die too. So that means if I can do that, that means I will have booted George Perry out of the record book because he doesn't deserve to be there. I will have helped install Manabu Kurita where he deserves to be, and I'll have put David Hayes back. So I will have impacted the world record of the bass species without ever catching one.
And just a note for the listeners, if you guys are interested, the story he's talking about, Ken and a bunch of scientists pulled this like Mission Impossible style, like guerrilla move to try and get samples and this, that, and the other, fin samples, and you name it, to like,
well, yeah.
It's interesting, dude. Like, don't downplay it. Just take it. It's interesting. All right. I'm just saying.
With the help of the fine people at Yamaha.
Yes. Yes.
Because they own the skin mount of Manabu Kurita's 22-pound, 5-ounce largemouth bass that he caught in 2009 in Japan.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So, all right. Have you ever learned a lesson on the water that you've implemented in your life, or vice versa? Learned something in life that you implemented on the water?
That's Dave. You're just killing me with these questions here.
Yeah. Very
Yeah,
unprofessional. I didn't send them ahead of time.
No, that's okay. I should have seen enough episodes that I had caught wind of all this, and been better prepared. But I think that I think I hate to say it, but tenacity. I've always been a fairly tenacious person, maybe intellectually. I've always tried to go to the nth degree to figure something out and learn something new, and that I found I have a parallel in the boat. I will try to fish hard until the last cast of the day, and I will try to find ways to reinvigorate myself on the water, whether it's changing locations or picking up a new bait or whatever it might be. I do the same thing in my personal life and in my work life. For anybody who's ever seen the Big Bass Podcast, the last thing you see on the show last thing you hear is the slamming of a door. And that carries a lot of meaning for me personally. And I'm the guy who said we need a slamming door at the end of the podcast, because the slamming door to me signifies we've covered this topic. I double dog dare you to do it better, to do it more thoroughly, to do it more authoritatively. And when you hear that door slam, that's Ken Duke saying, you might be able to do it smoother, you might be able to make it look more polished, but you cannot do it more thoroughly, you cannot do it more meaningfully, more authoritatively. And that's what I try to do.
Dude, no, yeah. And it shows. Like, it's been shown through the years, at least the small amount of time that I've been in fishing. Like, you are a case closed, like, door slam guy. Like, we are closing the door on this subject. If you want to readdress it, by all means, but here is all the information. I challenge you to do something better.
Yeah, knock yourself out. Good luck to you. But anyway, I'm sure I haven't always lived up to my own standard, but I've tried.
Well, I feel like you're doing just fine. All right. Biggest mental or emotional block for you?
I'm a procrastinator. I don't know if that's a mental block per se, but again, it goes back to never feeling like I've done quite enough before I have to throw something out into the world. Um, some poet, I wish I could remember his name, said a poem is never finished, it's just abandoned. I thought, and that stuck with me. I have these little note cards, Dave, all over my office with things that mostly other people have said that resonate with me and that just mean a lot to me. And I glance at them. They're all over here on the side of a bookcase. They're over here, and that kind of stuff keeps me going and resonates with me. And that was one of them. The A poem is never finished, only abandoned.
Awesome. I love it. Dude, I'm gonna write that down because that's yeah. I'm ADD, so I start a lot of stuff. So,
I hear you.
yeah,
I want to start a lot of stuff, and then I say no. I probably should try to finish this first.
that's one of my things. All right, so where does fishing for you fit into all this now? Like getting out on the water.
I don't get out on the water nearly as often as I'd like to. My mom became very ill a few years ago, and my boat hadn't been out of the garage since she passed away. And I still have not gotten my boat out of the garage. It sits on flat tires and needs to be totally overhauled. And but one of these days, I'm gonna pump up the tires, get a new truck to pull it, and get it to the shop and worked on and get back out there. But I do fish with friends, and one of the cool things about my time in the industry is I get invited on some nice trips, and whereas I could be out there fishing by myself or with a buddy, which is enormously enjoyable. Also, sometimes I get to go fishing with the the big stars of the sport, which I always learn a lot.
Nice. All right. Um, Tell us one thing that no one knows about you, but like a window into who you are.
Okay. Let's see. I'm fascinated by the Shakespeare authorship controversy.
Really?
Yeah, here's this guy who lived in the 16th and early part of the 17th century, and he wrote what universally are regarded as the greatest poems, or some of the greatest poems, and many of the greatest plays ever written. We know almost nothing about him.
Hmm.
But one thing we basically should know is that he ain't the guy from Stratford upon Avon who went to school for a couple of years and then dropped out.
Yeah.
That ain't this guy. There's a massive controversy in the literary world as to who was actually William Shakespeare. And there's a lot of names that get thrown out there: Edward de Vere, and many others, Francis Bacon, on and on and on, Christopher Marlowe, on and on and on, or
Sure,
even
Francis
a
Bacon.
conglomerate of people. But that fascinates me. I have tons of books on that topic, and I like real life mysteries.
Yeah, that's that. I've never heard that, and now you've
No.
given me another rabbit hole to dive down. Thank you.
Uh-oh.
Like,
Uh-oh. You
yeah,
search Shakespeare authorship controversy, that's a deep, deep, deep rabbit hole.
I'm not above it. Trust me. I I don't have a whole lot of time, but I rabbit hole real fast. So
You're
I
you're gonna yeah, you're gonna spend a lot of time there.
oh awesome. Awesome. All right. Last and final question. Um, it's a three-parter. What do you do for your health? What do you do for your hydration, your diet, and your mental clarity? I feel like
Ah,
that's a lost. I feel like that's a lost thing in fishing. I feel like just personality and people's biographies are lost in fishing. That's kind of why
yeah.
I did the show. But
For health, my wife and I go walking not often enough. My wife is 5'8" and a half, weighs 123 pounds. She's slim and trim and beautiful, and I'm not any of those things. But we walk some. I'm getting into chair Tai Chi thing because I have some physical issues.
Mhm.
Um, what was the second part?
uh, hydration, diet, and mental clarity.
I have always got uh, a tumbler of water. I'll have maybe 3 coffees a day. So I've always got something to drink within arm's reach.
Mhm.
On the water, I've got lots of water and Gatorade. So I stay pretty well hydrated. And then the third part
Uh,
was interesting.
mental clarity.
Mental clarity. I try to wake up every morning and do a crossword puzzle and a Sudoku. Um, both my parents had dementia later in their lives, and I don't want to say they suffered from it because it was mostly the people around them who suffered from
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
They suffered too, of course, but
Hmm.
I don't want to go that route. I don't want to outlive my brain. Um, Now, many people out there watching and listening may say I've already done that, but oh, you know what? I should say that's my greatest fear, Dave. I don't know why I didn't go straight there. My greatest fear is outliving my brain, um, and suffering from dementia because I don't want to put that kind of burden on anybody. And it was horrible to go through it with my parents.
Yeah.
Um, Horrible, and it was just such a burden on my wife, who is an incredible person. But she took care of my mom mostly, and I was there for some support, but I didn't do nearly the Herculean task she did.
It's it. I, my family went through some of that stuff too, and well, they went through it pretty heavy. And I do remember the times, the small wins of he remembers me right now. Like, cool. Like, I'll take this for a minute. You know,
Yeah.
it's a struggle, dude. That's some heavy life. Like that
The
that
worst time of my
disease
life.
that disease is something I don't understand why they don't have more information on it. And I understand that like crossword puzzles, Sudokus, like brain puzzles where you're constantly challenging yourself helps memory, helps keep cognitive function running. But I mean, dude, I feel like there's just so much more. Like I know they did a lot of experimentation on like sharks and things like that for, regenerative qualities, et cetera, things like that. But it's such it was a very sorrowful time in my family. It was very heavy. So I can
Yeah.
relate that experience to you, and it's my heart goes out to you, man. That's
Well, it's over.
yeah.
Until my parents passed away, you hear people say, uh, I used to think that dying was the worst thing that could happen to you,
Yeah.
and or thereabouts. And some people would say, oh, it can be a blessing or it can be a relief. I didn't fully understand that or appreciate that or agree with that on any level until my dad died, because he had gone through a horrid year of dementia and so forth, where he he didn't know who I was. He knew my name was Ken on some level, and I think he was pissed off that I had the same name as his son, when in fact, of course, I was his son. Um, and my mom's situation was longer and more drawn out, and and she lived with me and my wife for several years while she was going through all this, and frankly, it was unmanageable. If I had to do it again, I would have found some assisted living for her. But that's not what she wanted. And my wife was willing to sacrifice. And so we kept her at home until she died at home. Um, but gruesome,
Yeah.
gruesome. The worst time of my life.
Well, let's end this on a high note, Ken. Let's talk about
It's got to
I
be
mean,
higher
I
than that.
I know
Everything.
I appreciate the vulnerability. Like it's a hard thing to like actually muscle through some of that stuff, sometimes, especially like I don't know,
Yeah.
experiences that will, hurt your heart. So
And I was not aware of the psychological evaluation segment of the whole angler question.
I feel like that's the most important part though. I feel like that's a lost thing because everyone wants to know about how you catch them and what's the mentality you stay in to keep a winner's attitude. I want to know more about like you as a human, like the human aspect. I feel like the human elephant. I feel like the human element is slowly being lost in creating basically characters. Like each individual angler becomes a character. Yes, they have their own personalities, but I don't. Where does that personality come from? Like I want to know, dude. Like G-Man, he is hilarious. Long road to get there. Would love to hear it.
Well, I think, and I love where you're coming from on this, and I love what you're doing here. One thing I think that's cool about getting to know the people as human beings is, people say stuff to me online in the comments section underneath our videos that I don't think they would ever say to me if we were face to face.
Truth.
And I don't think I ever have said something to somebody online that I wouldn't say face to face. That's where I draw the line. If you wouldn't say it to me face to face, then I don't want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hear from you. You're not the kind of person I want to interact with.
Yep.
If you're going to tell me something, if you're going to take a shot at me, if you're going to say something about me personally and take a shot at me online, and you wouldn't have the guts to do it face to face, then good luck in your own private hell.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to hear it.
To be honest, Ken, I don't know about you, but I'm way more savage face to face because I feel like there's an element missing of like on computer typing. I mean, mind you, I troll my buddy Zach and Josh over at Dark Horse Tackle. I troll their podcast all the time, but we are all friends. I
Yeah,
know them
sure.
personally, and
That's
they know
different.
that I am like that in person. Like in person,
Yeah.
I do a lot of jabs, a lot of shit talking. Like that's part of my personality. But like I would never do that on a radio, like a recording of some sort, much less type it out and not have the balls to say it to somebody in the face. I think it's ridiculous. I don't know why people hide in their houses to have a savage comment. I don't need it.
They're cowards, and they're people of poor critical thinking, people of low morals, people who have terrible lives, and I want to feel some compassion for them, but I don't,
Yeah.
because you can do all of those things and not try to create harm or havoc.
I feel like they're the same people that put kittens in mailboxes. All right, Ken, we're gonna close this up because I know you've got life to get to. I'm so sorry to hold you for so long, but
My gosh, man, I'm this has been a great 3+ hours, Dave. Thank you so much for having me on the Whole Angler. It's been an honor. It's been an honor to get to visit with you, and I'm thrilled because I beat Brian the Carpenter's time, which I think was like 2:43. So
yes.
I win.
Yeah. You heard it here, Brian. So Ken, let everybody know where they can find you if they want to get a hold of
Oh
you for
wow.
anything.
Oh, okay. Well, I got Bass After Dark. That's Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. If you want to email me, and hopefully you don't want to say anything snarky that you wouldn't say to my face, my email is ken@mycroptourist.com. Not shy about giving that out. Love to hear from people who are interested in our sport. One of these days we will get the Big Bass podcast rolling again, and sometime pretty soon I'm hoping to get this other thing going. But
Yes.
again, Dave, thanks so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I can't wait for that YouTube series. All right, I'm gonna throw you in the green room, and I'll catch up with you in a minute. All right. Thanks again, Ken. You guys heard it here. That was Ken Duke, the man, the myth, the legend. I can't believe that he sat with me for that long and just entertained my psychotic brain. So thank you again, Ken, for coming on the show. Thank you to all the listeners for listening. I really hope you guys are having a great day wherever you are. Remember, drink water, eat food, and sleep as much as you can. Here's a little positive note.
I'm waffle face. And that's no one face. And that's not a face. For a few days. I stand on and trees. I got some trees. Come on, Dada.
And thanks to Kayak City and Kayak Adventure Series for making this show possible. I hope you guys have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon.